Good evening, and welcome to the commentary cam for Pukekohe in the Automobilista Supercars Championship. We're about to get going, so do throw any comments our way if you have any. Even if you don't.
Like a little bit like a retard.
A little bit.
Oh, very
you
good.
left yourself open for
I
that.
did. Oh, but I did.
Oh, what it did.
Oh, I know.
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 How do I turn that off? Pop out chat so we can.
Man, they do catch a bit of air.
They do.
That'll
indeed.
be interesting on worn tyres.
You bet.
You bit.
You betcha.
You bitcha.
All
Damn,
right.
you's a sexy bitch.
So it looks like Thomas Paul has recaptured the lead. That's a bit
It's
of
a ding-dong battle.
ding-dong battle indeed. And we'll see how this goes. I don't know what screen that's better on. All right, let's get that one going. We want to go on that one. I have got us muted this time.
Excellent.
Like last fucking Sunday when I had us hot the whole time.
It wasn't the whole time.
Well, like it was for the first. We just weren't talking, I think.
Because I went to have a pre-race nervous shit, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll have a look and see if we've got any comments or anything on the stream yet, and then I can just hear you and Bags going, yeah. I'm like, mate, you're live.
We were, and I saw that message about 3 hours later.
Ah, excellent.
Usually it comes straight up as the first one. It's a pain in the ass. It's not doing that. Right, go to my subscriptions. There's an idea.
For yourself.
Yeah. I hope I muted that TV.
Heckin' concern.
I hope that's... Oh yeah, it's 6,000, that's alright. Does me a heckin' concern.
Jesus.
Okay. You always feel like I missed something, but...
Nah, you're good, mate.
I got to offer you a drink.
You got this. Nah, that's all good.
I didn't even get myself a water. Oh, we're only...
Bad host to yourself.
1 minute and 30. I've got time.
Go, son.
Do you want a drink?
I will have a drink if there's one on offer.
What do you want, water or beer?
What? Yeah, water or beer, one of the two. You got 1:10, you're fine. Oh, thank you very much, sir.
You are very welcome.
What have we got? Rugby World Cup beer.
Yeah, I believe that's that game they call football, but they don't actually kick it.
Fuck. I don't do well with these at
Yeah.
your house. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Gee, that didn't take... What am I doing? Oh, I was going to say that didn't take long, but I was pressing the wrong one. I don't know what that means. It's not my monitor.
I don't know what that
Testing. I forgot to actually double check that when I unmute that.
Sounds excellent.
It does. You're a bit louder than Bagsy.
I am.
All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to round 11 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. The final round before the endurance portion of the year, and we are racing at Pukekohe Park Raceway in New Zealand. My name's Stairs. A very good evening to Madbird, who joins me, as always, in commentary tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Stairs. Looking forward to this one. Not a track I'm particularly au fait with, but it is shaping up to be decent, but judging by the times and the runners we've got in the server so far. And of course, I've been on the track with a few of these guys. Just a couple of days ago on Sunday, when we had the ARW 3 Hours of Suzuka, a few of the runners in the ASC Championship did come along, including Kurt Stenberg, who I beat. Just a little humble brag there. I'm obviously nowhere near Kurt's level in V8s, but I did have his measure in the AJRs, which is completely irrelevant to this particular stream, but I just wanted to squeeze that in there. I'm very excited to be here, Stairs.
Yes, and I was wondering exactly how long it would take for us to get into commentary, and you mentioned that you beat Kurt Stenberg on Sunday. Of course, didn't quite prepare for that event as well as he has prepared for this championship. It is fair to say, because he is leading this championship by 156 points over Jake Maloney, his Trans-Tasman Racing teammate. Brody Steen and Sean Allen in third and fourth places, with a huge amount of points for Race on Oz, who are actually leading the championship because Jake Maloney scored most of his points for TTL Esports when they were still a team. Ethan Warren for Astro Altus Esports has been making a charge up the points during the previous few rounds and has been the form driver of late. Colin Warwick in 6th place for Stealth Penrite Racing, ahead of Zach Baker for ZB Racing, another of the drivers who joined us in the Apex Rear Wing 3 Hours of Suzuka on Sunday morning. And Will Devenish for War Race Engineering in 8th place. Very consistent driver he is. Jay Borg in 9th place, second of the Stealth Penrite Racing team's drivers on the Drivers' Points classification. And Corey Preston for JMSR Racing rounds out the top 10. Turning our attention now to the points for the Teams Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. As you did say, we do have a Race on Oz of Sean Allen and Brody Steen in a pretty commanding lead in the Teams Championship. That's a swish 1,092 points, I believe. Quick maths is to be trusted over Trans-Tasman Racing. Astro Altus Esports in third place with ZB Racing, the Zach Baker and David Nadedick team coming in fourth. Trans-Tasman Racing numero 2 is running down in fifth place, and Stealth Penrite Racing down in sixth. War Race Engineering, Ozrob and Will Devenish in seventh place. JMSR in eighth, and Logitech G Altus Esports in ninth, with Team 11 in 10th, which is incredibly unsatisfying, I must say.
They were actually in 11th prior to this last round of the championship at the Bend. Aidan Schultz, the man driving a solo entry there for Team 11, and in the top 10, so he'll be quite happy with that. Here's the schedule for tonight. We've got 2 35-lap races and a shootout for the second race of the night, so looking very much forward to that. And as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Ethan Warren, who we mentioned is in a rich vein of form right now, is the man topping the timesheets at the moment. And I'm just looking to see whether I can see Jake Maloney on the timing sheets, and he does not appear to be there yet. We got some news during the day that he's had a catastrophic failure of his pedals and has been trying to source a new set prior to tonight. Very, very important for him to race tonight to try and minimise the damage in the championship, with Kurt Stenberg now with a 156-point lead. Apparently, if worse comes to worse, he has managed to qualify for the race with a game controller, but 2.5 seconds off the pace. So that will be very, very interesting indeed if that does occur. Madbird, you've had a bit of experience in Automobilista driving with a controller, haven't you?
I absolutely have. I, in fact, did do a season of Super V8s with a Xbox 360 controller. It was, I can't say it was an unpleasant experience because I didn't have anything to compare it to at the time. So, but it was definitely it's definitely very difficult. It's a much different experience to using a wheel, because obviously with a wheel you've got a lot more ability to catch slides and sort of place your wheel where you need to. With a thumbstick, it's basically left or right or nothing, and good luck trying to catch some opposite lock with a thumbstick. So hopefully he does manage to get some pedals sourced. I would have thought it would be easier to just bind accelerate and brake to like buttons on the wheel or something, rather than switch completely to a controller. But I mean, hey, it's his funeral, I guess.
Well, whatever he feels most comfortable with. If he hasn't done any racing at all with buttons on a wheel and no pedals, then that may be a bit more of a steep learning curve than using a controller. But no force feedback, of course, with a controller. Speaking of force feedback, we have also heard that some of the Logitech runners, drivers with G25s and G27s, have had some issues with their force feedback after the latest update to Automobilista. As soon as they get past a certain amount of slip angle, the force feedback just disappears completely, which could be very, very dangerous for trying to catch slides. Essentially, at a certain point, the game becomes very, very numb indeed. So Colin Warwick, one of the drivers we spoke to during the day, experiencing this problem.
Yeah, he was heard to say, "I've become so numb, I can't feel the angle." No. I am one of those people that has a Logitech G27. Luckily, I haven't experienced that issue. But yeah, as you say, it would be quite catastrophic to have happen during a corner or some heavy steering situations. But let's just hope that it doesn't affect any of the results tonight. We've got about a minute and a half left in practice, and then we'll be rolling over into qualifying. It's just a shootout for the second qualifying session. Is that correct? Stairs? No shootout for the first race, rather?
Yes, that is correct. And we're just looking on screen there at Jack Handel, who finished second in the Super 2 race a few minutes ago, and Thomas Paul won that race. So both of those two drivers coming in as wildcard entrants for tonight's main race. And I'm just trying to see if there are any others. I think RSM Latino as well, a wildcard entrant from Super 2. So good to see those guys along. And Jack Handel, another driver who was in the Apex Rear Wing 3 Hour, the one who teamed up with Kurt Stenberg, and you had him all over the back of your car for the last 30 or so minutes of that race.
Yeah, it was incredibly intense. He put the pressure on like an absolute legend. Not from my point of view, but it was very hairy. He was very, very close, very tight, very clean racing. I hasten to say I also beat him, obviously, as he was teamed up with Kurt Stenberg. But he was a late entrant. Speaking of Jake Maloney, Trans-Tasman drivers rather, Jake Maloney is in the server. He has emerged. We'll get to see what sort of times he's putting down, whether he is using a wheel or possibly a 360 controller. He's about 2.2 seconds off the pace. He's certainly not driving like he's on a controller if he is. You can always sort of pick a controller because the car jerks around a lot. There's a lot of hard steering angle, but it looks pretty smooth so far. So remains to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, just looking at the timing sheets, his first sector time is not that bad, 12.6 compared to quite a few others in the mid-12s. It's a very short first sector. Ethan Warren has done a 12.2, and Sean Allen very similar, in fact a fraction faster than Ethan Warren, but everyone else is a couple of tenths off those two at the top of the timesheets. So he may not necessarily be showing his hand as early as this. That's Corey Preston there coming into the pits. He's done a time good enough for third place as it stands. So it's all coming together.
All coming together, as Kronk does say in the hit film, The Emperor's New Groove. David Nededick up in fourth, another runner who was in the 3 Hours of Suzuka with Zach Baker. Tragically, they lost connection with 3 minutes left to run in the 3 hour race, which which hopefully nothing like that happens tonight. We've seen, especially Jake Maloney has had some bad luck in this championship with disconnections and connection issues. So we don't want to see any of that. If he's racing with the controller, then he's already going to be compromised. We don't need him also dropping out and losing a bundle of points to Kurt Stenberg. We want to see this championship battle go on to the very end of the championship stairs.
Yes, we most certainly do. Well, the timer has elapsed. That is the end of the practice session. And now we move into qualifying. So we've got a 10-minute session for race number 1. And you know how it works. When the light goes green, they'll jump out onto the circuit and set their best laps.
It's usually a little bit of a scramble for everyone to get out there, especially on quite a short track like this. They're going to want to try to find some clear air, which will probably lead to a lot of cars piling onto the track all at once. We have 21 cars in the server currently, so that's a pretty crowded house in terms of the track surface. Once people start getting out there, no one has exited yet. We've still got red flags. I can see. Looks as if one of the Trans-Tasman guys, that is Kurt Stenberg, he's just inching his way out onto the track. Looks like one of the War Race Engineering guys is first out on track. I believe that is Ozrob.
Most certainly is, followed by the 2 Trans-Tasman racing cars, and that is Kurt Stenberg ahead of Jake Maloney, and followed by Ethan Warren. So looks like a few of the guys who've been the top guys throughout the course of this championship are the ones to take to the racetrack first.
Yeah, not too many people waiting around in the pits. We've got Will Devonish hasn't left the pits yet. Jinx, J-Borg, Brody Steen are all still sitting in the pits. But apart from that, everyone else is pretty much either on the track or is making their way out right now. Second little pack there of Jack Handel, Sean Allen, and I believe Will Devonish just leaving the pits. So it's going to be a bit of a scrum for the cars that are still in the pits, because they're going to be coming out just as the initial pack is coming around to start their hot laps. So they might want to get a wriggle on if they want to get out on track in some clear air.
So we're looking now at Ozrob, who is the first man on track in this qualifying session, about to start his qualifying lap. So let's go on board now with Ozrob as he comes through the first corner, the very, very quick right-hander into the chicane here. Lots of curb on the inside, on the left and the right, and then get a good exit onto this back straight. Very, very important part of the racetrack. It's where you'll be setting up most of your overtakes down into the very, very sharp turn 5, the first part of the chicane here at turns 5, 6 and 7. The addition to the circuit, you can see where the track used to go, straight on to the hairpin. And this is looking like a pretty clean lap here from Ozrob, and then getting it all squared up for that very, very sharp right-hander, and very, very difficult rear traction zone. He does it pretty well. And then the last part of the lap, you can see the bump there as he goes around the final corner, and he will set the first lap of this qualifying session, which is a 104.5.
Yeah, so good benchmark there. We've got the 2 Trans-Tasman guys coming, and Kurt Stenberg has immediately eclipsed that time by 1.4 seconds. So that's authoritative.
Ethan Warren.
And Ethan Warren, not surprising anybody by going a clear 8/10 faster than Kurt Stenberg on his first flying lap. Thomas Paul has jumped up to between Kurt Stenberg and Ethan Warren with a time that is nothing to sneeze at. I'm just trying to get the time for you right now. It is a 102.8. And there's a bit of drama on the back straight. Looks like one of the Trans-Tasman guys, I believe Jake Maloney, has spun out. So that won't be helping his qualifying charge. He only was good enough for 9th on his first run. And we're seeing a lot more cars coming across the line now, Stairs.
Yeah, Ethan Warren is on another good lap, even though he's currently set the fastest lap, a 102.2. He's up on that by about 0.3 of a second, and coming through the final corner now, he's set the fastest middle sector, about half a tenth or so off in the first sector off his own personal best, and he improves by 1/4 of a second. So that's a great job there from Ethan Warren. And the drive, well, I was going to say the first to drop into the 101s didn't quite manage that, only 16 thousandths away.
It's getting pretty close though. We have Thomas Ball into the 102.2s, just eclipsing Sean Allen, who was a 102.4. So there is a mighty scramble for the top few rows of this grid, as Ethan Warren just seems to be untouchable. Thomas Ball though only 2/10 behind him, and Thomas McMillan up into 4th place. So Kurt Stenberg, who was previously second on the grid after the initial hot laps, has dropped down to 6th. And he's not looking like he's going to improve this time around. We've got Jake Maloney all the way down in 13th, and Sean Allen is on a quick one by all reports as he charges down into the chicane. He takes a bit of a curve there, a little bit, but keeps the car under control, and a little bit of wiggle there as he exits. He'd be coming down to the 2nd sector split right about now, and he is only just down on Ethan Warren's time by just under 1/10 of a second, 1.5 tenths up on his best time. So this is going to be something to watch. He cops a lot of air over the bump there, heading down towards the last couple of corners. He is coming across the line, gets a lot of grass, and across the line he is not good enough. 2/10 better than his previous time, but still 2/10 down on Ethan Warren's time.
Yeah, that's unfortunately lost a bit of time there in that final corner, especially getting some air. We're just seeing Jake Maloney recovering to the racetrack, only 13th at the moment, and he was on a lap.
He's on a controller.
So he's definitely on a controller. That's the word from Madbird. So that goes to show just how difficult it can be under brakes. He was very much under pressure. Kurt Stenberg, his Trans-Tasman race, cut right in front of him there. He had a bit of an off of his own. Jake Maloney's lap had already been blown to the S house. So unfortunately, it's looking like an unlucky night for Jake Maloney, but we've seen how his nights can turn around.
Yeah, we've seen him a couple of times this season, both at Barbagallo and last time out at the Bend. He has started from the rear of the grid and still worked his way up onto the podium, usually in pretty short order, but I don't have any inside knowledge to say that he is on a controller, but just from the way that car was handling, there was the brakes went from not applied to locked, and his turning seemed to be very, very abrupt. I'd say those are the hallmarks of being on a controller, and his place down in 16th would definitely suggest that. That is nowhere near his true pace, as we well know. He is at the moment about 1.5 seconds off the pace. So, having said that, first down through 16th, spread by only 1.5 seconds. That is bloody close.
Yeah, it is a short circuit, but that is very, very close indeed. We've just seen Thomas McMillan not on a particularly quick lap. He appeared to be warming the tyres as he had he lost 3 seconds in the first sector on this particular lap. So I think he was just using this lap to prepare, or using the previous lap to prepare for this lap. And he's found about 1/2 tenth on his own personal best. Currently sat in 4th place, and not too far away through the first sector is Thomas McMillan. So let's see what sort of a lap he can pull out, because he has been one of the drivers who has been one of the guys right in the action as our screen just freezes momentarily. Another 1/4 of a second there. He's not too far off the time set by Ethan Warren, but I don't think might be enough to get him up into 3rd place. We will see as he comes around the final corner. New livery for that car this week with the Pleb Sim Sport. Probably not the best livery Thomas McMillan's run all year, and he stays 4th, but improves by 1/10.5.
Ethan Warren doesn't look like he's going to be improving. He's had a very messy outlap. Lots of squirreling under braking, lots of air there as they come over the bump. That's going to be interesting on the first lap of the race, I reckon. As we've got a car sideways across the track on the start-finish straight and doing some nice donuts that I'm sure Ethan Warren didn't particularly appreciate. Heading down through turn 1 on a brand new hot lap, squirreling as he comes out of the. He's barely manages to hold on to his.
Quick one for Thomas.
Barely manages to hold on to his car. As we've got Thomas McMillan on another quick lap. He was bloody fast through the first sector and he is also fast through the second sector, only 0.07 of a second down on Ethan Warren's time. So it's all going to be through this last couple of corners. He didn't catch too much air through the bump, out onto the runoff area and across the line. He is still not good enough to jump up from fourth, even though he improved his time by 0.2. That is insane. There is very little margin for error up there.
Yeah, he was very, very close through the first two sectors, but lost a fair bit of time through the final sector. Now, Ethan Warren was very, very close to his pole time provisionally in the second sector split, and he comes to the line and improves by another 0.04 of a second. So Ethan Warren is just chipping away at it, gets better and better like a fine wine, and no one else is able to live with his pace right now. He's a 1/4 of a second clear at the top from Thomas Paul and Sean Allen.
Yeah, I'd say that top position on the grid is pretty much spoken for. We've got 25 seconds left to run in this qualifying session, and the guys that are out there, I say that, Thomas Paul has gone fastest currently through the first sector, or is that the second? No, that is the first sector, as he's heading down towards the chicane. If he manages to hold on to this, he will eclipse Ethan Warren for the top step on the grid.
Thomas McMillan into third.
Thomas McMillan up into third place, so he's jumped past Sean Allen. Thomas Paul is about to come over the second sector split. We get to see what sort, and it's all gone.
It's all gone.
Not sure what happened there, but 0.5 down now, 0.5 second on Ethan Warren. So that is a damn shame. Thomas McMillan up again through the first sector, over 1/10 up on Ethan Warren's first sector time. He's getting a nice toe down this back straight towards the chicane. He's just got to make sure he hits his braking point. Squirreling under braking, a little bit of a lock-up, but he seemed to get away with it. He held a lot of pace there in the Pleb Sim Sport car. Coming out of the chicane, he's not going to be happy about that traffic in front of him. As we've got we've got people in front of him. He's still a 1/10 up. People need to get out of his way. I'm sure they don't particularly want to do that, but he is bloody close.
Kurt Stenberg's in a gaggle of cars, 7/10 off the leader, and if he improves here, he could find a couple of positions, but he's unable to do so. Looking back now at Thomas McMillan as he comes around the final corner, right out onto the grass, the Scotty McLaughlin line there, keeps it out of the wall, and is unable to improve that traffic. Very, very costly indeed.
And just, I was surprised that wasn't a track cut. That was all four wheels over the line. But hanging it out, everything on the line there for Thomas McMillan, and just not able to improve. So he's going to start in third. And it looks as if that is about all she wrote. Everyone who is going to settle up has done so. Everyone else is in the pits. So at the moment, Ethan Warren will be carrying a new pole position for the third race in a row, I believe. Both Bend races he started on pole, ahead of Thomas Paul and Thomas McMillan, the two Thomases in second and third, and Sean Allen for Race on Oz Racing, rounding out the two front rows of the grid stairs.
Well, Ethan Warren, it's a shame he's missed so many races because he would very much be in the championship fight. He may well be
drop round
in the championship still with the drop round, as Mad Bird just said, and now the endurance race portion of the championship is coming very, very close to starting next month, of course, with the Bathurst 1000, a full distance Bathurst 1000. We can't wait for that one, but that is all she wrote for qualifying for race one. We're going to have a quick break. We'll give you a bit of a summary of what happened at the last round at the Bend, and on the other side, we'll give you all the action from Auckland.
Which keyboard?
I know. That was all right.
Yeah.
I need a headset, I think, because I like to be able to talk
while looking at. Yeah, I know.
Because every time I need to talk, I have to sort of pull it away from you. And I like to just say like a word, and you keep talking and stuff.
I was trying to see the timing on that one, and I'm
Ideally, we'll have it on there, and it'll be much easier for you to see that. But that worked well because I think we can capture what's going on a lot better than we normally do.
Yeah, no, it is good. That could be doing a bit closer to me.
It's difficult to see.
Yeah, because I'm a blind prick. Yeah. But apart from that, everything is pretty decent.
I'm just going to have a pee.
Mm-hmm. You do it, buddy. He's peeing, if that wasn't already clear. He did a roadie. Don't dream that it's over, Madbird. Hey, I'm glad someone got my Crowded House reference. Did he answer your question about what beer we're drinking? It's Heineken 330ml lager beer. Rugby World Cup, Japan 2019, Australia. Heineken beer in particular.
What are you talking to, mate?
I was talking to our viewers.
Yeah. Very good.
Roddy got my Crowded House reference.
You was a Crowded House. I remember the other reference, the Linkin Park reference.
I've become so numb.
Yes.
I just said it's going to be a very crowded house when they all get out on the track.
Uh-huh.
And Crowded House were a New Zealand band.
I am very appreciative of that, actually, now that you put...
Don't dream it's over. Hey now,
So
hey
Thomas
now.
falls second. Wow, so he's
He's well out of position. Holy hell.
yeah, considering he's he was racing in the Super 2 race.
Yeah, he's going to get the call up
I
soon.
think so. And Thomas McMillan in third. I'm not going to get
Sean
this all
Allen
finished.
fourth.
Need to do these. Yeah, who's fifth? Colin Warwick.
I reckon Kurt was sixth, was he?
Seventh, I think. Who was sixth? Brody Steen.
Man, the race on Oz guy's smashing it.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to Pukekohe Raceway. For the Auckland Super Sprint, we've just had race number one. We've just had race number one. We just had qualifying for race number one. Beg your pardon if I just gave you a fright. You tuned in too late. You haven't missed the first race. And Ethan Warren has set pole position for the race. He's just going from strength to strength in this championship right now. Very, very dominant last round at the Bend, Mad Bird, and looking like he's continuing in that vein of form heading into the most important race of the year in Bathurst.
Yeah, absolutely. He's him and I assume his brother Dane, were both incredibly quick, but both have had a bit of consistency issues in the past of putting it in the wall when they've been leading by 50 seconds. Seems like Ethan has ironed that out of his repertoire and has just been, as you say, going strength to strength. He's been absolutely dominant and calm in the lead, just vettling it basically and tripping off into the lead and not really looking back, not worrying about what's going on behind him, just keeping his mind on doing consistent fast laps and. He's been reaping the rewards. As you say, he would be well up there in this championship battle had he been around earlier on in the season. But with those drop rounds, that will help him out a little bit. And who knows, a couple of good results during the endurance rounds, and he could easily find himself up at the top of the table, especially if Kurt Stenberg and Jake Maloney have any further issues these last couple of races. We've got, 30 seconds left in warm-up, and then we'll be going into the first race. And Stairs, I think it is going to be a cracker.
Yeah, that's absolutely going to be a cracker. We're looking at Jay Borg on the racetrack now. Only man on the racetrack taking advantage of this very short warm-up session. Everyone else electing to have a little bit of a break before we have the 100-kilometre race, the first of two tonight. A little bit different to the normal super sprint race with the sprint race and the pit stop race. Both races long enough to necessitate a pit stop in this case. And that will certainly be an interesting factor because we'll see what the strategies are in race one and then we'll see what they learn from race one and carry into race two.
I will admit, I did think that may have been an error on the graphic when I saw that they were both 35 laps. Woe is me for doubting Stairs. Going to be very interesting to see two races back to back and see, as you say, what they learn, who decides to change their pit strategy between races and who decides to stick with it. But speaking of, we've just clicked down to 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and 0 milliseconds in this warm-up session. We're going to be jumping over into race any second now, and Ethan Warren will be starting out on pole. And I don't want to assume that he'll be starting out the favourite to take the win in race one, but I'm going to say he's probably starting out the favourite to take the win in race one.
Well, you've said it. Thomas Paul going to be starting alongside him in second place. Thomas Paul, who won the Super 2 race earlier tonight, so he clearly is deserving of a promotion. The extra laps he's done on this racetrack tonight may well put him in good stead. We'll see if he's got enough to challenge the man at the top of the timesheets tonight in Ethan Warren. And of course, the man in third place, Thomas McMillan, is a guy who we've seen have some absolutely cracking battles throughout this year, and we can't wait to see whether he throws a bit of a cat amongst the pigeons. Here's where we are, North Island of New Zealand, into Auckland, and that is Pukekohe Raceway. 35 laps, 102 kilometres, around about 40 minutes. It'll take us to do all of those laps around this 2.91 kilometre clockwise circuit. We're expecting fuel burn somewhere in the region of 4 litres per lap, which will give us a pit window around about lap 7 to 27. So a fairly wide pit window, which gives us a lot of options for strategy tonight.
Yeah, and it's a short lap, so a long pit stop, if you do need to pit for some damage or something, could very possibly see you coming out a lap down on the front runners, even if it's in the first couple of laps of the race. So everyone's going to want to try to stay tidy. I'm very interested to see how that bump goes on lap 1 when the cars are all bunched together. I think I could easily see some people getting a bit hairy in the air, as we've got the cars setting off on their formation lap stairs. I'm going to hand it right over to you, buddy, to begin the run through.
So Ethan Warren, as we've detailed, in a rich vein of form, starts off from pole position with the Super 2 winner Thomas Paul alongside him in second place. Thomas McMillan for Pleb Sim Sport, number 248, starts behind them in third place alongside Sean Allen in what was a good qualifying session for Race on Oz. Colin Warwick will start out of fifth place and hopefully has sorted those issues with his Logitech wheel. Brody Steen, the second of the 2 Race on Oz drivers, there in sixth place, ahead of Kurt Stenberg, who is currently in seventh place, championship leader, but of course much higher placed than his championship rival in Jake Maloney. Job Stewart, new driver to this championship coming from iRacing, has done a bit of scops, and he is racing for Pursuit Sims Racing in 8th place. Ahead of Nigel Marneef, Zach Baker in 10th place, Jack Handel, the other Super 2 graduate. David Nenadich starts out of 12th place with Jinx in 13th. Will Devonish in 14th for War Race Engineering. Ahead of Jake Maloney, let's see how many spots he can make up. And Jay Borg in 16th place. Another of the Stealth Penrite Racing cars, Aidan Schultz for Team 11 in 17th place. Ozrob in 18th. And Corey Preston in 19th with Tony in 20th and Instinct in 21st with the Green-Eyed Monster.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see how Jake Maloney does off the start. I have suggested that he may indeed be using a controller, in which case close dicing with other cars is going to be very hairy for him. But it all remains to be seen. We've got the lights upstairs.
Yeah, lights are on. We're about to get racing here in Pukekohe Park. Now, let's see. Drive-through penalty for Thomas McMillan for jumping the start, I can only suspect. And what a disastrous start for him. And Thomas McMillan, well, you can see that's put... Thomas Paul has lost a huge amount of ground there, down to 4th place, but of course he'll get one of those spots back once the penalty for Thomas McMillan is applied. But Ethan Warren leads the way by, well, looks like a decent old margin as they come down this back straight for the very first time. And let's see, pretty clean so far. But what do you make of that? Thomas McMillan straight away.
Oh, and he's just had a little tap there from Sean Allen. Looks like he's gotten away with it, and that is just horrible luck there for Thomas McMillan. Excellent start, although you wonder how much of that was the jump start. Thomas Paul not making any friends, trying to push up through on Sean Allen for 3rd place as Thomas McMillan peels off into the pits. Just hasn't had any luck, Thomas McMillan. He's always sort of been involved in incidents or in this case gets a penalty on the first lap, which is a damn shame. But further...
Kurt Stenberg!
Kurt Stenberg. We have Kurt Stenberg off the track and recovering just behind Colin Warwick. So he is still in 7th place. You would expect Kurt Stenberg to gain some positions off the start, but he has not done so. And Sean Allen just ahead of them. A huge lock up there into the chicane.
Yeah, but speaking of making up positions off the start, Jake Maloney made a few. He's up into 11th place, starting from 15th. But look at the lead already for Ethan Warren. It's out to 2 seconds, as Sean Allen is now the man in 2nd place and leading a very, very big group of cars there. A little bit of side-by-side action there with Colin Warwick and his friend Kurt Stenberg, the championship leader, going up into 6th place. And that's putting right a pretty subdued start from the championship leader.
Absolutely, it is as you say, very subdued. But the comfort for Kurt Stenberg will be that Jake Maloney hasn't repeated what he's got. Kurt Stenberg gone wide again through the last corner / start finish straight. I'm not sure what you classify it as, but it is. Jake Maloney has not managed to climb up to 6th in the first lap, as he managed to do last time out at the bend. So at the front, we have Ethan Warren.
Spinner!
We've got a spin.
It's Jake Maloney.
That is Jake Maloney around at the chicane. He is in the wall. He is DNF'd. He is in the garage. There was no pause on that whatsoever. He was immediately back into the garage, and it looks like Aiden Schultz also out of this race. My goodness, that has just flipped everything on its head. It looks like he just span completely out going through the chicane. I reckon that would have been a controller, and he has just gone straight into the wall and DNF'd out of the race, probably realizing that he's a bit of a danger to himself, let alone those around him. So things have just suddenly started looking a lot rosier for Kurt Stenberg, who's up into 6th place, right behind Job Stewart, heading down the start-finish straight. But as I was saying before that calamitous event, Ethan Warren with a lead of now about 3 seconds, over Sean Allen in 2nd place. Thomas Paul keeping him honest, only half a second behind him in 3rd stairs. My goodness, Jake Maloney out of the race, not even on lap 4.
Yeah, it was going to be very, very difficult to complete this race with a controller and coming unstuck on only the 3rd lap of the race, and that is huge for the championship. Kurt Stenberg, although he is only in 6th place, that is very, very bad news for Jake Maloney and very, very good news for Kurt Stenberg. He already has a race win worth advantage. He's going to extend that as it stands. But when I look at Colin Warwick there, having to defend from one of the Zach Baker cars. That is Zach Baker driving that in the number 512. And it is a hectic midfield battle as it stands. Look at this. Ethan Warren coming across the lines. 3-second advantage now over 2nd place man Sean Allen. So Sean Allen is on for another great haul of points, and that's going to be very, very handy in his bid to get his team up the standings, keep his team at the top of the standings for the Teams Championship, which they currently lead quite handsomely.
Absolutely. I don't think you say good news for Kurt Stenberg. As much as I think Kurt would like to win this championship, I don't think he would like to win it in that sort of fashion with his championship protagonist DNFing in the first few laps of the race. We've got Thomas McMillan with the fastest lap of the race down in 19th place as he recovers from that first lap drive-through penalty. So that is a absolute damn crying shame there for Thomas McMillan, who appears to have an incredible turn of pace when he's out by himself. We can only hope for a safety car or something to pull him back into contention, because he deserves to be up there and battling for decent positions, Des.
Yeah, that's a big shame, because we were denied what quite possibly would have been a battle for the lead there, but of course he was very eager to get started. We're seeing Kurt Stenberg coming under quite a bit of pressure now from Job Stewart in his first race for Automobilista Supercars. And great to see some new names in. There were 4 guys who were promoted into the big league. We're seeing a car on the wall. It's Corey Preston recovering down there in 18th. Try and bring you some pictures. There he is on the track there, and a replay just spinning at the first corner, it looks like, and dropping down. We also had Aidan Schultz retire from the race, which is very, very unfortunate. And Kurt Stenberg is still holding down 5th place ahead of Job Stewart, starting to stretch away a little bit.
Yeah, I think Aidan Schultz got caught up in that Jake Maloney incident. They both DNF'd basically one after the other. So that is Corey Preston around again as he manages to rejoin without impacting Thomas McMillan. He makes a position up. Well done. And meanwhile, Kurt Stenberg locking up into the chicane as he's beginning to close down Brody Steen, now under a second between the Trans-Tasman and Race on Oz cars there. And look at this pack coming down the back straight. There's about 5-6 cars probably within 5 seconds of each other that are just sort of coasting each other down, tugging each other down these straights. Tugging isn't the word that I was looking for. And Ethan Warren at the front has just sort of equalised this advantage. About 3.4 seconds it's been for the last couple of laps. And Sean Allen just doesn't seem to have the pace to close that down, or is just content to sit there and hold on to this second place over Thomas Paul, who himself doesn't seem to really have an answer. He's 2 seconds now behind Sean Allen in 3rd place.
Yeah, not a lot separating them at all. What's that? About from 3rd all the way down to 10th is only separated by 5 seconds, and then from 10th to 11th, another 5 seconds. So that's the margin between David Nenadich and Nigel Marneef. But the rest of these guys, if you lose if you make one little mistake, one little locked tyre, and Kurt Stenberg goes a little bit deep into the chicane there, putting himself under a bit of pressure. But one locked tyre, one wheel on the grass, and you could lose 5 spots. So Kurt Stenberg will be very, very happy with 5th place there. But another locked tyre, that's going to be giving him a bit of a flat spot. Only 8 laps into this race. The pit window is open, but I don't anticipate anyone to come into the pits quite this early, because that means that they'll have to extend the final stint quite a lot. But he stretches away through this part of the circuit. We've seen in the first few laps that he likes to carry a lot of speed through there, sometimes to his detriment, because he was out into the grass there, but it avoided contact with the wall, and that is always a positive thing.
It is, but then that extra speed just seems to, just a little puff of lock-up through the chicane. He just seems to be having a little bit of trouble getting it stopped. Hasn't cost him so far, but if he keeps going, that tyre is eventually going to cry enough, and he is going to soar off the track, as we saw happen last week at the Bend, but hopefully not for his championship prospects.
We saw Corey Preston having a couple of spins earlier in the race, and he has joined Jake Maloney and Aidan Schultz in retirement now, so he is the 3rd man in this race to retire.
So unfortunately, Thomas McMillan, who earned the distinction of by overtaking Corey Preston of not being the last man on track, is now again the last man on track, down in 18th place. So Ethan Warren now over 4 seconds ahead of Sean Allen. That is growing stairs.
It is. Thomas McMillan might not be last for much longer, though. He is catching Tony in 17th place at a rapid rate of knots. He still has the fastest lap of the race, which is a 1:02.3. And on the last lap, Tony had a bit of an excursion, it looks like, because he was about 3 seconds off the usual pace that he's been setting, and lost 5 seconds to Thomas McMillan.
Yeah, so Thomas McMillan now within a second of Tony, as you say, and I reckon that position is basically spoken for. It's just a matter of getting it done, as he looked like he was going to have a go down on the outside into the chicane. Probably best to just bide his time a little bit as he gets a decent exit out onto the back straight. A little bit of crossover there between the 2 cars, and Thomas McMillan may be going to be able to have a go down into the chicane. He pulls out from the slipstream of the Stealth Penrite car of Tony and brakes so much later.
Does he get it stopped?
He does get it stopped just. He's out on the grass a little bit, but manages to hold it. It looks like Tony broke a lot harder than he probably had to, just to avoid any possible incidents. And Thomas McMillan has already shot up the track towards Jay Borg in another Stealth Penrite car.
And in the second part of this Thomas update, Thomas Paul is beginning to close down on Sean Allen for 2nd place. You can see they're all in that same shot. It was 5-second gap between third down to 10th. But now Sean Allen on the last lap, he was marginally quicker, but that gap has been steadily coming down the last few laps. So Sean Allen may not be particularly safe there in second place. But Thomas Paul is also dealing with a Race on Oz car in his rear vision mirror as well as in front. But behind, of course, Kurt Stenberg, who seems to have dropped. We've lost Job Stewart from that battle. He's dropped down to 8th place, so he must have made a mistake. So that's very unfortunate for him. Oops, sorry about that. Let me fix that.
It looks as if Kurt Stenberg is putting a lot of pressure now on the Race on Oz car of Brody Steen for 4th place. He is all over the back of him heading through the chicane there, and he managed to get a decent exit. He's glued onto the back of that Race on Oz car. He's going to get an incredible slipstream down this back straight into the chicane. Will we see a Thomas McMillan pull out and overtake, as Brody Steen looked like he was going to cover the inside just a little bit, and it looks as if he's managed to block Kurt Stenberg well enough that Kurt has had to say, "I will overtake you another day, my friend."
Yeah, that's letting Thomas Paul off the hook a little bit. He's managed to stretch away. That was a lot closer about a lap ago.
Yeah, which he would be, he'd probably be quite happy with. He might be feeling a little bit out of his depth here, being a Super 2 promotion. Although he isn't showing it if he is feeling that way, because my goodness, he's bloody quick. As we've got Ethan Warren, looks like coming up to lap one of the cars. Nigel Marneef, I believe he would have made a pit stop because he's.
Here we go. Sorry, Kurt Stenberg up the inside of Brody Steen at turn 1. It would be a very, very brave man to try and make that move. It's not really a braking zone. You carry so much speed in there. And we've got a car off there. Who is that? At the first corner, it's Thomas Paul's gone off. No. Thomas Paul's gone off. So that is an absolutely disastrous turn of events for Thomas Paul. We'll try and catch the replay just as you were saying that he seemed to have got the confidence to deal with it. It all came undone for him at the chicane, and the battle that you're looking at between Kurt Stenberg and Brody Steen is now for 3rd place.
Yeah, that is commentator's curse personified, I think. I was just saying how excellent he was doing, and that he didn't seem to be having any issues keeping settled up there fighting for podium positions, and he just loses it in the chicane. That slight noise of almost orgasm from my co-commentator Stairs was Kurt Stenberg having an almighty bit of tank slapper coming out of the second to last corner. He's going to have a run down the inside into turn 1, which is very brave. He has to brake to keep on the track. And now Brody Steen is going to have the inside line into the chicane. They're rubbing, but rubbing is racing when it comes to V8 supercars, and it looks like he has managed to slip through by the barest of margins. That is very close racing between the two, and I don't think it's over, Stairs.
No, it's not, because in behind Brody Steen has the slipstream, and Kurt Stenberg has moved to the inside to defend the line. Brody Steen's going to try and drive around the outside and get to the apex first. He does. He's got the inside, but then, of course, the next corner is the right-handed hairpin, and Kurt Stenberg just has the better traction. Are we going to see a dive here from Brody Steen? No, we're not. We've Sean Allen spun out. Sean Allen spun out in front of them, and so this 2-car battle is about to become a 3-car battle, and Kurt Stenberg's going to swoop through into 2nd place, leaving the 2 Race on Oz cars in his wake.
My goodness, what was a battle for 4th not one lap ago is now a battle for 2nd place, and it is a battle that Kurt Stenberg has taken the victory in very, very, very happily, as we've got the 2 Race on Oz cars now going to have to squabble for that 3rd place if Brody Steen is unable to live with Kurt Stenberg and maybe catch up with him. Lots of locking up going on into the chicane there, and I believe we had the car of Job Stewart, I believe, going through the pits, or possibly even Thomas Paul. I saw one of the cars exiting the pits, and it was one of those black and blue ones that looked slightly unfamiliar to me. Kurt Stenberg a little bit wide there through the 2nd chicane, giving Brody Steen the chance to close back up on him. He is going to be right on the back of him going into the hairpin, and Sean Allen, probably very frustrated with himself, is probably thinking, I want to be back up on that podium as well. I don't like this 4th place. It feels weird.
They're all starting to stretch away, but look, the gap between the leading cars has come down quite a lot. The one gap that hasn't come down is the one between Ethan Warren. Oh, that's a very, very wide line there from Sean Allen coming out of the final corner. That's going to put him under tremendous pressure from Colin Warwick and Job Jack Handel, Job Stewart behind them. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Too wide as they go through the first corner, and everyone completely out of sync pace-wise. Kurt Stenberg, meanwhile, in second place, is starting to break away from Brody Steen, who in turn is breaking away from Colin Warwick, who a moment ago was about 6th.
Yeah, how things can change in the space of very short laps here at Pukekohe. Zach Baker, I just want to point out, we just saw making an incredible move over Sean Allen, probably an unanticipated move into the chicane. Was very well done, very well held onto by Zach Baker. But at the front, as you say, Ethan Warren now 14.5 seconds over the second place runner of Kurt Stenberg. That is what I would call a significant lead. Brody Steen, however, is on the back of Kurt Stenberg, under half a second between the two of them. So Brody Steen is carrying the torch for Race Honours Racing with his teammate Sean Allen coming into the pits. Obviously doesn't think it can get any worse on this set of tyres.
Yeah, so first man to blink, and Jack Handel looks like also coming into the pit lane. We're going to stay with this battle because Colin Warwick has got 2 cars all over him, Job Stewart and Zach Baker.
Job Stewart's lapped.
Sorry?
Job Stewart's lapped.
No, he isn't.
Oh, no, fuck.
Job Stewart, I'm sorry, my co-commentator feeding me misinformation, beg your pardon. Wouldn't be the first time. I've done that to you plenty of times. But yeah, those two have remained the only ones to pit, Jack Handel and Sean Allen. So put that in your diaries there. A little bit of a wiggle there from Job Stewart. Loses the position to Zach Baker, who himself has a little bit of a wiggle coming out of the final corner. This gives Colin Warwick a fair bit of breathing space. And let's see if any of them dive into the pits on this occasion. The answer is no, they don't.
There was a lapped car. It was Thomas Paul. My bad. He was the one that got out of the way for Zach Baker. I thought that position looked a bit too easy. And it looks as if Colin Warwick has now got that 4th place all to himself, with Job Stewart now being about 4 seconds behind him. I believe that someone has just peeled off into the pits, and it is Zach Baker has come into the pits on, lap 17. So we're not even halfway through. We're just coming up to halfway through. But my goodness, my throat is hurting already. Ethan Warren now with a 15-second lead over second place man Kurt Stenberg. The gap between second and third, still under a second. So Brody Steen not letting up the pressure, and that pressure very well might get to Kurt Stenberg eventually.
Yeah, so Jinx also in the pit lane.
Buy me a Coke.
What? Buy you a Coke?
Jinx, buy me a Coke.
Very good.
You owe me a Coke.
Moving on. Let's see if there are any more pit callers this time. Colin Warwick dives out of that battle there, and it makes him another driver in the field to make a pit stop. So here he is coming around. Kurt Stenberg has stayed out on the racetrack, and Osrod coming into the pits as well. I would have thought Thomas Paul would have already made a pit stop because his spin only dropped him as low as 8th. And Kurt Stenberg and his battlemate Brody Steen continue. But I think Kurt Stenberg's just stretching away a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think Brody Steen recognises that. Looks as if the Race Honours pit crew might be coming out into the pits.
Ethan Warren
into the pits. So race leader pits from his lead of 16 seconds. Probably not worrying about an undercut there. Instinct is up into 4th place, having not pit yet. Up 19 positions from his start. Will Kurt Stenberg blink? Looks as if he's not going in, but Brody Steen is. So Brody Steen hoping for the undercut with some fresher tyres as he gets it stopped just in time for the line there. That was quite close. You can't quite see there, obscured behind the trees, but it's a bit of a curved braking zone into the pits. And my goodness, that would have been bad if he'd gotten a drive-through penalty. Ethan Warren just coming into his pit box now.
Unfortunately, we can't quite see him on the cameras. There's the onboard from Ethan Warren. His pit garage a long way down the pit lane. And we're also seeing Will Devenish come into the pits. So they're all blinking pretty much exactly halfway through, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
It does make a lot of sense. Looks as if Kurt Stenberg might be blinking himself. The Trans-Tasman pit crew are coming out into the pits. Currently, he now has a 16-second lead over second place man Instinct, who I believe is also pitting this lap. Ethan Warren, however, is about... How far is Ethan Warren behind? He is about 30 seconds back on the leader. So
here he comes.
he comes, Kurt Stenberg, into the pits, gets it slowed down nice and early for that line. Doesn't want to get a drive-through penalty. And Ethan Warren is just swooping through the back chicane now, so he is going to easily retake that lead. But Brody Steen's the one to watch, currently in 5th. He was less than a second behind Kurt Stenberg, and he has had a pretty decent outlap by all accounts. Not the fastest first sector by all means, but probably still faster than the last time Kurt Stenberg went around. And he might very well jump Kurt Stenberg in the pits.
Yeah, Kurt Stenberg just pulling into his box now. He's got the very, very last one on pit road, and Brody Steen is in the final sector right now. Here he is, coming past the pit entry, so this could be very close indeed. Kurt Stenberg is on the move, but I think he might have short-fueled it compared to Brody Steen, because Brody Steen just coming around the final corner now, and you can see Kurt Stenberg. Oh no, it's going to be mighty, mighty close, and Brody Steen will be behind Kurt Stenberg, but with hotter tyres. And this is going to be a resumption of their battle from earlier on. It's a big lock-up from someone in front of them. I think that might have been Jay Borg, who's yet to make his pit stop. And, oh boy, we're in for a bit of a treat right now, aren't we?
Absolutely. You just saw the little wiggle there from Brody Steen coming onto the back straight. His tyres would be so much warmer than Kurt Stenberg's. If he wants to get the job done easily, he's going to have to probably get it done either before the end of this lap or early on in the next one before Kurt's tyres are up to temperature. Kurt, you can see the tyres just puffing smoke a little bit. They're not ready for this sort of treatment. He probably wasn't expecting to come out into the middle of a battle like this, but Brody Steen all over the back of him takes a bit of a wider line through the hairpin, but can carry some further speed down this back straight.
Ethan Warren has just reclaimed the lead of the race. Instinct has come into the pit lane, and he is going to drop down. We're still looking at this battle between Brody Steen and Kurt Stenberg as they go past the pit garages now. Instinct drops to 5th, and Kurt Stenberg and Brody Steen are now up into 2nd and 3rd place. And this is a battle which has had the positions correct themselves now.
Yeah, this is now for the positions that they are currently in. So 2nd and 3rd place are to be decided by this battle. And Brody Steen just seems to take a much tighter line through that last corner, can get a better run onto the straight, but doesn't really have any. It's not quite good enough for him to do anything with it. And Kurt Stenberg deep into the back chicane, giving Brody Steen a huge. No! And a big tap, but Brody Steen pulls out of it, doesn't want to take the position that way, and Kurt Stenberg says, "Yeah, thank you very much. Don't assault me that way," and is now retaken 2nd place. Not that he lost it, and Brody Steen just trying to put pressure on, and the pressure was a little bit too much. It was a little bit of physical pressure, which is not the kind of pressure you want to see in racing, because people can get hurt, although this is a video game. Ethan Warren has just set the fastest lap of the race on presumably a pretty high fuel load, so that is not to be sniffed at. Brody Steen just setting off about Kurt Stenberg, as I was saying, and as was just evidenced there. He takes a much tighter line through the last corner, can get a better run onto the start-finish straight. And Kurt Stenberg, as we saw, just seems to go very wide, runs out onto the grass a little bit, and it causes him a little bit of concern heading into the chicane, as it did last time around, heading into this chicane when he locked up. But it looks as if he's managed to get it stopped this time around.
Yeah, Kurt Stenberg now, with the benefit of the 1 lap younger tyres than Brody Steen, looks like he's just starting to stretch away a little bit now that those tyres have got up to temperature. We've also seen a great battle here between Job Stewart and Jack Handel, and Job Stewart just going a little bit deep into the hairpin has given Jack Handel a sniff. He's going to try and dive up the inside at the hairpin, but he thinks better of that. Job Stewart goes deep into the hairpin, and we've had Jinx retire from the race with a blown engine. He's gone straight back to the garage. This is turning into quite an attritional race, so very bad news for Jinx. And Job Stewart just starting to stretch away a little bit, carrying a lot of speed through that final corner, doing the Kurt Stenberg line as he gets 2 wheels out on the grass through that quote-unquote straight.
I just went looking for Thomas McMillan because I hadn't seen him in a while. Turns out the reason I hadn't seen him in a while is because he's in the garage. He DNF'd not sure when, after 11 laps by the looks of it. So he DNF'd about 10 laps ago, so that's a damn shame. But I mean, I guess he's got to regroup and
win or bust for him.
Yeah, he's got to focus on race 2 at this stage. Get some practice in for qualifying. And Zach Baker looks like he's shortcut the chicane. He's had to cruise out and around the He hasn't gone through the chicane. Oh,
He's got damage.
He's definitely got damage. That you can see the smoke just pouring from that front left. He must have bashed on his wheel.
Oh, there
somewhere.
it is. Yeah,
that would be it. That would be what caused it. And never mind. I take back what I was saying about him taking the chicaning correctly. It's incredible that he managed to take the chicane at all.
And he may well become our next retirement based on that. So that is a very, very bad situation for Zach Baker. Meanwhile, Brody Steen is continuing to fall back from Kurt Stenberg. That isn't exactly what he wants to see, but he's still on the podium, ahead of his Race on Oz teammate Sean Allen, who's going to be ruining that spin earlier on.
Yeah, I think if the position was going to change, it was going to change on that lap when Brody Steen caught Kurt Stenberg coming out of the pits. He had much warmer tyres and he had all the pace, but he just wasn't able to get it done. And I think he's taken a bit of life out of his tyres because he's squirrely coming out of the hairpin, and he's just losing time hand over fist to Kurt Stenberg ahead of him. He's now 2 seconds behind the Trans-Tasman Racing driver, who is 20 seconds now behind Ethan Warren, who just appears to be like effortless. He's just cruising, and he's cruising at such an altitude that there's no chance any of our runners can catch him. As Kurt Stenberg had I thought that was going to be worse than it was. Never mind.
Yeah, I was just going to show everyone this battle now between Instinct and Thomas Paul over 10th place. That's currently the closest battle on the racetrack, as they've all spread out a little bit in this race. After the frantic action in the first stint, the pit stops have done their job in spreading the field out a little bit and focusing our attentions.
Yeah, we've just got a couple of little spot fires now brewing, rather than the conflagration that we had at the start of the race. Job Stewart also putting the pressure on Jack Handel for 6th place. They are very tight going through the back chicane down into the hairpin. So that's we've got a couple of tasty little battles here in the mid-pack to keep a watching brief on. Instinct has done very well to get himself up into 11th place, considering he started in 23rd. And Will Devonish has just had a little spin down in 12th. Still up from where he started though, so probably can't judge him too harshly for that.
Yeah, there's a replay of Will Devonish's spin, and it's funny, when you don't have cars around you, you tend to lose concentration quite easily when you are battling other people. That is generally when when you find it focuses your attention. Jack Handel now, he's not got Job Stewart within striking distance of him, and it's been an interesting old race for Jack Handel. He finished second in the Super 2 race earlier tonight and was sort of around, we qualified about 10th, 11th, and just through a little bit of attrition of those ahead of him, he's managed to get positions up the field, and he's doing quite well, holding his own against, by all reports, quite a quick handler in Job Stewart, who himself is racing his first race in this particular championship. So a couple of unknowns. It's good to see some new faces here.
Yeah, Job Stewart from V8 Scops apparently, so you can probably safely assume that he is, if not an alien, then definitely grew up in a gravity well other than Earth's, and he probably has a bit of weird bone density as a result of that. He's currently showing that he probably weighs a little bit less than Jack Handel, because he is all over the back of him. He is now under 0.2 of a second between Jack Handel and Job Stewart as he pulls out down towards the back chicane. That Dupont livery on Jack Handel's just waving goodbye as
not quite.
As Job Stewart cuts across at the exit of the chicane. And my goodness, that nearly ended in tears, but they were both grown up about it. And as I say that, Jack Handel looks like he's locked up and tapped Job Stewart a little bit into the hairpin, but no harm and no foul as far as Job Stewart is concerned. He's taken that 6th place and running with it.
Yeah, and this is giving David Nenadic a bit of a sniff. In fact, I reckon he's going to spy a bit of a move on the next lap, and he's the best placed of the 2 ZB cars at the moment. Zach Baker has had an absolute mare. We didn't see exactly what happened to him, but he's down in 15th at the moment, and you saw him coming out of the pits earlier on, And who's that Penrite car? Is that one of the lapped runners? I
Yeah.
believe it is, getting out of the way there. The number 40 there. 411, driven by Tony, I believe that is. Now here, we've got a bit of a run here for David Nenadic. Goes to the inside. Going to try the same move that Job Stewart tried on the previous lap. And that was a little bit generous. Gave him way too much space right out onto the grass. And he's almost going to let the lap runner by.
Yeah, way too generous, as you say. He gave him too much space, and then didn't give himself enough space to complete the corner, much less the pass. And he's now dropped way back to about 1.5 seconds. So just bad luck there for David Nenadic. He was looking dead set to have a run, but just pulled out a little bit too early. You gotta hold it in there until the very last second. I find.
Yes, and then come on to back. Let's move on to Cosmo, who seems to be closing in on Sean Allen at the moment. That's another good battle that seems to be brewing.
Seems to be brewing indeed. We've got Brody's. Fuck. Oh, I do apologise for my language there, viewers. I don't know what's happening anymore. Thomas Paul is quite close to Nigel Marneef for 9th position. They are about 3/10 between them going into the back chicane. Thomas Paul, bit of a how the mighty have fallen. He was running in 2nd early in this race, and with a
big spin there.
Nigel Marneef drifts it expertly. Let's be generous through the hairpin, and it gives up that position obviously intentionally that he intended to do there to Thomas Paul. As Thomas Paul takes that 9th position. Just ahead of them, David Nenadic, who is still 1.5 seconds behind Jack Handles, hasn't managed to make any inroads on that particular position. And I don't believe there's any particularly close battles on track right this second. I reckon this Nigel Marneef and Thomas Paul battle is the closest one on track.
Yeah, so let's stick with this battle just for the time being. The leader has just begun the 32nd lap of the race, so
Nearly there.
It's been a quick old race, and it's never been without incident. It's been one of those races where people tend to retire quite a lot. The word is attritional. So we've got 16 cars still running, 11 still on the lead lap, and none within 20 seconds of the leader. That is absolute dominance from Ethan Warren. Here he is, leading the race by 22 seconds. And Kurt Stenberg, the man behind him in 2nd place, is quite comfortable now. He's got a 3-second advantage over Brody Steen. And it's fair to say he's pretty comfortable as well. Sean Allen is the one probably at the biggest amount of risk of losing his position in the top 4, but not under a huge amount of pressure at this very moment.
Got Imakar in the chat just saying that Jack Handle was lifted from the Super 2 race. Obviously got himself a bit pumped up. I would say so. He is in 7th place at the moment, 5 positions up from where he started. Blistering run there for Jack Handle. As you were saying, a lot of retirements. We have, of course, we've lost Jinx, Thomas McMillan, Corey Preston, Jake Maloney, Aiden Schultz from this race. So that is a solid 5 of our runners out of this race, or even 4, I don't know how to count, out of this particular race. And Ethan Warren just seems to be effortless, like 2.5 seconds currently, or 22.5 seconds ahead of Kurt Stenberg currently. Granted that the other podium sitters have had a bit of boff, a bit of barge. We just heard a crash. Don't know what it is. I reckon it might have been instinct. He's just recovered to the track on the start-finish straight. We were busy watching Ethan Warren and just heard like a crash bang noise. And indeed, I believe it was him. Looks as if he's gotten a little bit happy through the last corner and straight into the wall, which still doesn't put too big a damper on his decent run of 23rd to 11th. I'd say that's a pretty decent run from the back of the grid. Kurt Stenberg up 5 positions in 2nd place. He's going to haul home a massive amount of points against his championship rival Jake Maloney. Of course, DNFing on just lap 2 of these 35 laps here at Pukekohe.
Yeah, very, very good night for Kurt Stenberg, because he, as much as he wants that to happen from a competitor point of view, he doesn't want that to happen from an admin point of view, because running this championship, he would like it to be very, very close finish. So he's a little bit torn in that respect as the race leader begins the final lap of the race, and Ethan Warren, with the drop round that we've mentioned, going to come into effect towards the back end of this championship. That was very, very close with the lap runner of Tony. It was a lot of trust placed in the Penrite driver by Ethan Warren, but he's been just metronomically banging out the pace, still in the mid-102s on the previous lap, the only driver to do so. Everyone else in the 103s and 104s, and one driver in the 109s. Let you guess which one that was. And Ethan Warren has just had the race of his life. Well, perhaps not the race of his life, just a Sunday drive, it would seem, and he's going to add to his already rather sizable tally of victories in this particular race. Here in Pukekohe, just one more corner to go. Ethan Warren, if he's not in the championship hunt, he's very, very close to being, because he is downright unbeatable right now. Ethan Warren, race winner.
I would not bet against that man to take out a similarly dominant win in race 2. So definitely hang around, everybody, and keep an eye out for the results of that one. Kurt Stenberg having a bit of an exciting end of the race with a couple of lap runners around him, and one of them, I believe that's Ozrob, directly into the wall behind him. So just giving him a decent little camera angle there, heading down towards the start-finish line. Takes out second place on the grid, does Kurt Stenberg, followed by Brody Steen, the Race on Oz driver, ahead of his teammate Sean Allen. So very decent end there for the Race on Oz guys, improving on their current lead in the teams championship. Colin Warwick up into 5th place. Actually, 5th place is where he started the race. Colin Warwick staying in 5th place. Job Stewart into 6th. Jack Handel 7th, up 5 positions from his start. David Nadovich also up 5 positions in 8th. Thomas Paul in 9th place, 7 positions down from his 2nd place start in the race. So that will be bitterly disappointing for him. And Nigel Marneef rounding out the top 10 in his Team Talent 690 car with the car sales livery. Who else have we got? Will Devonish for Wall Race Engineering 11th. Instinct up 11 spots in 12th for his Team RSM. The Green-Eyed Monster, Zach Baker in 13th, Ozrob 14th, Tony in 15th, J-Bulk 16th, and that rounds out our finishers. Jinx, Thomas McMillan, Corey Preston, and Jake Maloney and Aiden Schultz all DNFing out of this race. Stairs.
And the race winner, Ethan Warren's already taken to the garage and probably having a bit of a shower.
Not wasting any time.
Not wasting any time. We're about to get going for qualifying too. We've got another race tonight and a shootout to boot. But that is a very, very good race from Kurt Stenberg's point of view for the championship. A very, very good race for Ethan Warren for the championship point of view. And Brody Steen and Sean Allen, that's terrific for them for their team's championship point of view.
Yeah, that will have extended to a dominant lead in the team's championship points. Jake Maloney just, we still don't have confirmation on whether he was on a controller or not. I have to assume that he was, because that car was not handling at all how you would expect it to handle with a wheel, and it almost seemed like he DNF'd. It didn't seem to be from damage. It was just frustration. He just got out of there as soon as he could once he had his spin on lap 2, and just didn't look back. I guess we'll wait and see if he does come back for race 2. He isn't currently in the new session that has started, but he probably would have jumped out between races anyways. It's if this is what decides the championship stairs, then that particular poem saying this is how the Automobilista Supercars Championship ends. This is how the Automobilista Supercars Championship ends. Not with a bang, but with a Kurt Stenberg whimpering.
I don't know how to respond to that comment, but nonetheless, it is what it is. We have got going in qualifying for the second race, which takes place in Automobilista in a practice session, because that is the way that it is done when there is a shootout. So we've got the cars starting to come out of the pit lane. Just about 4 or 5 of them so far. Most of them still sat up in the pits, probably still on their way to the bathroom or from.
Yeah, that was a. They usually have a slight break between the sessions. This time, just straight over. So I certainly hope no one was caught with their pants down, waddling indignantly from the loo to their computer or sim rig in order to take part in this qualifying session. I guess we'll figure out the top 10, and then we go into the proper qualifying session for the shootout between those top 10. So we could definitely see some shake-ups in the order stairs.
Yeah, so Colin Warwick is the first man on the racetrack, and Ethan Warren is also on the racetrack as well, just coming up to the hairpin. That's it's now about 7 or 8 cars, so it's a good opportunity to get your lap in because the track is not full of traffic right now, and really you just need to get a clean banker lap in. That's all it's about right now, because you only have to be in the top 10 to have a chance of pole position, and then it is going to be a 1-lap shootout.
Yeah, and at the moment we have, how many people do we have in the session? We've got 21 people in the session, so we will be having, it's almost a 50-50 chance, if you're half decent, to get into the top 10 shootout. And we're going to expect some of our familiar names up there. We're going to expect Kurt Stenberg. We're going to expect Kurt Stenberg. We're probably going to expect Colin Warwick. We're definitely going to expect the Race on Oz guys of Sean Allen and Brody Steen. We're obviously going to expect Ethan Warren unless something goes horribly, horribly wrong. So that is probably about half of those positions spoken for. Who will the other 5 go to?
Colin Warwick just encountering a little bit of traffic towards the end of that lap, but probably didn't cost him too much. He sets a 1:02.5. That's the first lap of this qualifying session, and naturally the fastest lap. But Ethan Warren's been going pretty quick at the moment. Nigel Marneef slots into second place, the only other man to set a time thus far. Thomas McMillan retakes the pole position, and Ethan Warren goes faster still on a 1:02.2.
Bloody quick is Ethan Warren. That is probably safe for him to go back into the garage and have a shower in the 6.5 minutes that are left in this session. But I doubt he'll do that. He'll want to make sure for sure that he's in that top 10. Thomas McMillan, obviously with a lot of pace, not shown in the previous race because of that jump start that led to a drive-through penalty on the first lap. So he just went nowhere very, very quickly, and he would be wanting to set that right in the second race. I would say the concern for everyone is that Ethan Warren seems to be able to bang out these incredibly hot laps at will. So that bodes well for him in the shootout. Bodes badly for everyone behind him, probably hoping that he's going to have a mare in the 1-lap shootout.
Well, here comes Ethan Warren for a second lap in a row, which is going to be good enough for provisional pole position. I don't anticipate he's going to have a mare in the shootout. Thomas McMillan, though, has just gone to the top, immediately eclipsed, of course, by Ethan Warren, but Thomas McMillan with a 1:02.1, but Ethan Warren dropped us into the 1:01s for the very first time tonight, and what a timely moment to do that. Thomas McMillan was at the top for barely a second.
Absolutely. Jack Handel was the last man in the top 10, and then Corey Preston just knocked him out, and Job Stewart has just jumped up to 8th and knocked him out. So currently Brody Steen and Zach Baker, the two most at risk in 9th and 10th in the top 10. Let's see if people are able to knock them out. I imagine Jack Handel probably capable of a better lap time than that. Thomas Paul, again, showing his pace. He is 3rd currently on the timing screens. Will Devonish only good enough for 12th, as we've got a few people coming into the pits following their lap times. Sean Allen and Nigel Marneef. Nigel Marneef going up 3rd fastest. That is quite quick there for the 690, the car number 690. Brody Steen still the last man in the top 10. He would be getting quite sweaty in that particular cockpit, as we've got someone. Looks like someone was locking up there at the hairpin. or having a moment. Brody Steen just a little puff of the tyres as he goes through. Still in 10th place. He's going to want to improve his time to make certain his appearance in that top 10 shootout, but he's coming into the pits. Job Stewart improves his time, but not his position, still in 8th place, as Brody Steen still the last man in the top 10. We've got 4.5 minutes to go. I'm wondering who in those top few places after the top 10 can jump up. I'm reckoning Will Devonish, Jack Handel, Ozrob.
Yeah, Will Devonish has just improved, but not by enough, up to 12th place from 13th. So he was already in 12th. He got dropped down to 13th. He improved, and then he went 12th again. So if you're going forwards, you are staying still. Or if you're staying still, you're going backwards. Jay Borg's been dropped down to 14th. Let's see if he can do anything about that. And Corey Preston's another man who we might expect to see in the top 10. He's currently sat in 12th place. Jay Borg's gone into the pits. Let's see what Corey Preston can do. And who else is in the danger zone right now? We've got Instinct currently in 11th place. Corey Preston going down the back straight at the moment, just behind Instinct. So we'll stay with Instinct for the time being to see whether he can break his way into the top 10. Brody Steen currently the man on the bubble. And is that Brody Steen right in front of him? I think it might be, coming around the final corner. Let's see what Instinct does coming to the line. I haven't actually seen a sector split from him during this lap. One more corner for him. That was Zach Baker ahead. Instinct goes 8th. So Instinct finds his way into the top 10. Very good news for him. Corey Preston now is on his way to the line, currently sat in 13th place, and he stays 13th. Not good news for him.
Definitely not, and not good news for Brody Steen, who looks like he's warming up for a Hail Mary lap here. He's just gone very slow through the last sector of the racetrack, and he's getting an absolute cracking start to this new hot lap as he comes across the line to start it. So it's only a 1 minute and 13 second lap, but don't let that fool you. That was just all a warm up for this one. So he is needing to improve by about a tenth. A tenth, I reckon he'd be safe. If he gets a tenth, he'd be up into 9th place behind Job Stewart.
Zach Baker's currently the driver on the bubble. He is in the top 10, but looking to improve. And through the second sector split, he was up by just 25 thousandths of a second. But of course, any amount that he can move the goalpost will be good news for him. But he loses time through the final sector, so it's no good for Zach Baker. Still in the top 10, but these are nervous moments. There are 2 minutes left in this qualifying session, so just a couple more swings of the bat. Brody Steen, can he do anything? Doesn't look like it. He's down by 7/10 of a second, so that is very, very bad news. Zach Baker is on a good lap here. Just saw green flash up on our screen from him. Don't know how much he's up, but it's looking like he may well put himself a little bit more clear at the top. He's only in at the moment by 22 thousandths of a second. Corey Preston there is very, very, very close in 11th place, but Zach Baker has gone faster in his second sector split by 3.5 tenths of a second, which would put him well safe, I should think. It would put him into about 8th or 9th place. So Zach Baker, one more corner for him. He comes across the line, and if he carries the same sort of speed through there that he did on his previous laps, he will improve, and he goes 7th. So Zach Baker's safe.
Brody Steen was about a tenth and a half faster than his previous best in the first sector, and he was on this last lap as well, but he just seemed to have some issues in the second sector. He is still about a tenth up on his previously best time, which would only be good enough for 11th at the moment. Corey Preston's jumped up, as well as Instinct, into the top 10, knocking Job Stewart down as well. Brody Steen coming up towards the end of his hot lap. He will have a chance to do another one if he's fueled for it. And he hangs it all the way around the outside across the line. I don't think it's going to be good enough. He improves, but not good enough. He's in 11th place. He's got to be thinking, what have I got to do? He is only 1.5 tenths behind 10th place man Corey Preston. If he manages to hold on to it, he's half a tenth up through the first sector split. So if he can build on this, get another tenth in hand, then he will take that 10th position from Corey Preston. Who else is improving? Jack Handel has improved, but only good enough to get 12th. Job Stewart still down in 13th. What can he do? He's out on track still. this is all coming to a head right at the end of the qualifying session prior to the shootout. Brody Steen coming through the second sector split any second now. Looks as if someone's there's a big hunk of the and I reckon that's thrown Brody Steen well off. He's locked up into the hairpin. He was 3/4 of a tenth up through the second sector split. Someone has knocked one of the chicane, I don't even know what you call them.
Tyre bundles
onto the track, and I reckon that threw Brody Steen well off.
Yeah, and that was mentioned in the briefing notes that they weren't supposed to do that. Jack Handel's got to find a bit of time through this final sector. He's only bettered his PB through the second sector split by 9/1000ths of a second. He only needs to find about 0.2 of a second in order to jump up into the top 10, and he's unable to do so, and he stays 12th. Brody Steen looks like he's got damage from that incident with the tyre bundle, and the timer has hit 0. All of a sudden, the track goes very, very quiet. Have we got anyone else still on a lap? Let's have a look. Job Stewart has not made the cut. He's currently in 13th place and is not going to be able to improve. So too Will Devonish. So that's very, very bad news for Will Devonish fans. He's made every top 10 shootout this year apart from this one. So not what War Race Engineering would have liked. The top 10, Ethan Warren, Colin Warwick, Thomas McMillan, Nigel Munif, Thomas Paul, Sean Allen, Zach Baker, Kurt Stenberg, Instinct, and Corey Preston.
My goodness, yeah. So that was a bit of a hectic end to that qualifying session. Can only hope that the top 10 shootout is as exciting. Corey Preston getting that last spot in the top 10 didn't look like it. He got knocked out a couple of times. And Ethan Warren, even though he probably had it locked down with his first outlap, he's stamped his authority on that particular session, and will probably continue to do so heading into the shootout. As it looks like we've just switched over to the new session. Corey Preston rolling down the pit lane to begin his hot lap. Slightly obscured there by the buildings, but he's going to come into view. Oh, there we go. So we see him, whoop, red light. He comes to a stop just in time, and he'll be hopping out. You can hear that engine revving. It sounds like a metal can full of screws. You're just shaking around. It's certainly an interesting noise as we've got him, the green light dropping. And he stalled it. He's managed to get it going as he begins to exit the pit lane.
Yeah, so Corey Preston on the broadcast probably won't want to watch that back, but it doesn't necessarily matter. It's just something to have a bit of a laugh about. So he will be the first man to set a lap in this qualifying shootout. And be interesting because he'll have the knowledge from only a minute or two ago, but he'll have that pressure, of course, as well. He knows how to deal with pressure, of course, because he was able to pull out a lap that was good enough to get himself into the top 10. I think the strategy that he should employ in this particular shootout session is just to do a measured lap, just try and nail down a time, because I expect that there will be drivers who get track cuts and get their times deleted, and they will automatically be behind him, even if he sets a time that's well off the pace.
Yeah, we do shootouts in our weekly league races over at Apex Rear Wing, and it is a lot like that. You're sort of torn between trying to go for a really hot lap and just getting a safe one in, and so that you know that you'll have a time on the board, because as you say, the chances are almost 100% that someone's going to get a track cut. I didn't see too many track cuts in the first race. There weren't too many times getting erased or anything like that, so perhaps it's not as prevalent around Pukekohe, but it looks as if Corey Preston has begun his hot lap. Decent run there through the first corner, down into the chicane, riding that bump, riding that curb even, as he rounds the chicane onto the back straight, as he shoots himself down towards the back chicane. Decent turn of pace here. It looks as if Instinct is out on track. Yes, he knows what he's doing. Corey Preston into the back chicane. Good line. Not quite as tight as he'd probably want, but he didn't fly off the track, which is definitely a positive thing from his point of view. You can see a little scuff or something on the track, I think, still from that tyre bundle. So that is that's still carrying itself over between sessions. Decent run through the hairpin there for Corey Preston as he shoots down through the last couple of corners. Now coming through the penultimate corner, across that bump and around the last corner onto the start-finish straight, hangs it out onto the runoff area there. Very conveniently placed that runoff area as he crosses the line with a 102.7. Nothing too shabby. That's not too bad at all.
Yeah, Corey Preston, pretty pleased with that, a 102.7. We only just saw Ethan Warren make it into the 101s in that last qualifying session. So it's a decent lap, not super quick, but I think it's something that he can be reasonably pleased with. And now we turn our attention to Instinct, driving that green-eyed monster. It's a reminiscent livery there. He gets out onto the grass, carrying as much speed as he possibly can through that final corner, trying to carry as much as he can through to the start of this flying lap, going through the first sequence of corners. And it's a very short first sector, so we'll get a bit of a barometer on where he is straight away, and it doesn't look good for Instinct. He's 0.3 of a second down through a 12-second lap, 12-second sector, I should say, on the time set by Corey Preston, and that is not good news. It's going to be a lot of time to try and wrestle back for Instinct.
It is. He's had a better run there through the other chicane, a bit of a wider entry into the second portion of it, giving him a better run down onto the hairpin. He has closed the gap slightly, but he's still the better part of 0.3 of a second down on Corey Preston's time, which is going to be music to the ears of Corey Preston as Instinct comes around the penultimate corner, across that bump, gets a lot of air, and he's got a very wide line through the last corner, right out on the grass as we saw at the start of his hot lap, and he crosses the line with a 103.1, so about 0.5 in the end, down on Corey Preston. Kurt Stenberg coming around to start his hot lap very shortly. Yeah,
so Kurt Stenberg, I think, has a bit more pace in him than where he qualified in that last session. It would appear to me that he was just trying to get safely into the top 10 shootout, and he has done just that. So now he starts this lap, and a very clean final corner for him. And the 12-second sector split will be the one that we'll have our eyes on very shortly indeed. Oh, he's got two wheels up on the curb there and spent a long time struggling to wait for it to get back onto the ground. He's 100th down, and I wonder how much time he would have lost on the exit of that corner coming down this straight. We'll find out very shortly indeed. And Kurt Stenberg will be hoping for probably a front row start, if not a second row start at worst. Second man in the first race, but of course he qualified a little bit further down, and he has found time 0.2 up now.
Of course, no Jake Maloney so far in this second race, so I would suggest that definitely will not be taking part in the second race, which is all music to the ears of Kurt Stenberg, but also slightly disappointing. That championship battle looking less and less likely to continue, as Kurt Stenberg sets a 102.4, 2.5 up on Corey Preston. That championship battle between Kurt Stenberg and Jake Maloney looking less and less likely to continue, as Jake Maloney hemorrhages more and more points. Zach Baker putting the headlights on. I'm on a hot lap, he tells everyone. There's no one else on the track, so I'm not sure why he's doing it. But he crosses the line to start his hot lap. Decent run through the first corner by the looks of it. Cop just gets the tyres up on the curb a little bit, carries a little bit more speed. Big amount of curb there, but hasn't unsettled him. He's 0.2 down though through the first second of corners.
Yeah, that surprises me a little bit because he wasn't as aggressive on the curbs as Kurt Stenberg, and I thought Kurt might have lost a little bit of time through there, getting two wheels up in the air for quite a significant period of time. And Zach Baker was a lot cleaner, but cleaner can sometimes be faster. It can also sometimes be slower, and it's hard to know when just by looking. On that occasion, it was slower, but Zach Baker has lost a little bit more time through the middle sector, a 28.3 middle sector time. It's still the second best middle sector, but Kurt Stenberg, of course, is the benchmark right now as he comes around the final corner. Zach Baker will try and keep his foot on the floor, flashes the lights for the broadcast team, I can only assume, and goes third fastest behind Corey Preston.
Yeah, he'd probably be disappointed with that. I think he could do a little bit better. Sean Allen is now beginning his hot lap. The first of the two Race on Oz drivers, the only team to have two drivers in the top 10 shootout. So very well done to both of them. Rounds the first corner, good line, gets it stopped nice and early. Very little curb compared to the rest of our runners into the first chicane. It seems to be paying off for him. He's almost a tenth up on Kurt Stenberg's time through the first chicane, and what looked like a much better run onto this back straight compared to the Trans-Tasman driver of Kurt Stenberg. Down towards the braking zone for the back chicane. He gets on the brakes nice and early, turns it in. Very good, just following those tread marks almost to perfection. Beautiful line there through that back chicane. Coming up to the second sector split, he's improved very, very slightly. He's now very slightly closer to 1/10 improved over Kurt Stenberg as he now fires himself onto the penultimate corner across that bump. Big bit of air, you see the car slam back down, and a good line through the last corner.
Oh!
Never mind, he's well out on the grass. He hasn't had a track cut, and he goes first fastest 3/10. He gained that all in the. Well, he gained basically 2 whole tenths in the last sector of that lap stairs.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Maybe you should floor it through there and get all wheels on the grass if you can stomach the fright, for lack of a better term, that gives you. As we now turn our attention to Thomas Paul, who is just starting his lap. And let's see whether he's got a bit of an answer. It's been a stellar night for Thomas Paul. He's very much proved to us that he belongs in the main game, but a little bit wide through that first part of the chicane, and it's cost him on the timesheets 0.3 of a second down in the first sector split. It was, of course, a very good first sector that we are comparing it to in Sean Allen. So 12.7 is the first sector time for Thomas Paul. Got 2 wheels up on the air there. That's absolutely destroyed the lap. I wonder if he's got a track cut from that one. Probably not, but it's going to cost him at least 0.5 of a second. And Thomas Paul, well, more than that. I was conservative in my estimate. He's over a second down. Sean Allen was absolutely pushing, and I think found most of his time in that final corner. So Thomas Paul is probably going to be a thick end of 2 seconds down on Sean Allen, which would put him down around about Zach Baker, Adrian Instinct. So let's see if he ends up in 5th place. No, he doesn't. He's worst qualifier so far in this qualifying session. Very, very disappointing for Thomas Paul. But of course, that's what can happen in the shootout. It causes you to make mistakes you ordinarily wouldn't make.
Yeah, it's a lot more pressure than just a regular qualifying session because, all eyes are on you and you've only got the one chance to come good. Nigel Marneef now gets his chance to come good as he's coming around the hairpin, going through the penultimate corner right about now across that bump. He doesn't ride it very much at all, just focuses on getting a decent run through that last corner, and he does. No tyres on the grass, which we're still debating whether that's a positive or a negative considering Sean Allen's pace. The first sector being so short is handy because you get an early barometer for pace, but it's also not particularly useful in another way because it's such a short first sector that you can't really identify where they've gained or lost time. And indeed, I'm not sure what Nigel Marneef did that would have him 0.06 of a second down on Sean Allen through that first sector.
That is true, but there is quite that technical chicane and the very fast turn 1. And if anything, it probably shows how well you did the last turn on the previous lap as well, because that affects quite dramatically your starting speed as you begin your lap. But Nigel Marneef, although he wasn't too far away in the first sector, has bled a little bit of time through that second sector, which is mainly just that back straight and chicane. So it could have been the exit of turn 4 or the entry to turn 5 where he lost that time. So Nigel Marneef, can he claw back any time? Sean Allen was absolutely mega through the final sector, and Nigel Marneef is only good enough for 3rd at the moment.
Yeah, Kurt Stenberg sitting pretty currently in 2nd place, although we do have the looming prospect of Ethan Warren still to come, which I don't want to cast a shadow on everything, but he has just been absolutely uncannily fast all night and for the last couple of rounds even. So I would expect him to be very, very much on the pointy end of this particular grid. As we've got Thomas McMillan starting his hot lap, or about to anyway, coming around the penultimate corner. He had an incredible qualifying session last time out. Started off third on the grid, but a jump start on the first lap, obviously, because that's when the start of the race happens. Saw him get a drive-through penalty and eventually retire from the race down in 19th place. So he is definitely wanting to come good. Takes a very, very wide entry into that chicane. Hasn't cost him too much time. He's only 0.02 of a second down on Sean Allen's time. And it looked like a decent run onto the back straight. He's going to carry that speed all the way down to the back chicane.
Yeah, we'll see if that wide line on the entry cost him on the exit in the next sector split, of course, as Thomas McMillan negotiates this chicane reasonably well. Very, very clean by Thomas McMillan's standards. He usually likes to be quite aggressive on these laps. Ooh. There it is, bit of a wiggle, and proving that that was a very, very good exit of that chicane and a very, very good entry into the next chicane, because he has found time 0.03 of a second. But of course, Sean Allen was absolutely mega through the final corner. Thomas McMillan will try, but he's a little bit wide going in there. I reckon he kept his foot planted. He could be a chance here of stealing the provisional pole, but he loses 0.2 of a second, but he stays ahead of Kurt Stenberg there, 0.5 tenth. These are very fine margins.
Incredibly fine. That is that's disappointing for him. That last sector just didn't look like he had his. He wasn't fully committed. He seemed like he was almost trying to be a little bit safe there over the bump. He didn't. You saw Sean Allen's car almost looked like it. You could see the springs bouncing when it landed off that bump. But Thomas McMillan just a little bit more conservative, I think, and that's where he lost the time. Colin Warwick starting his hot lap, going through the first couple of corners here. Very, very, very wide.
No!
He's cut the chicane slightly. That might not be a track cut, but it's certainly not fast.
No.
And definitely not now, as he has looped the car and looped it again and is now setting off down the back straight. He is probably going to be even further behind than Zach Baker. Zach Baker at least kept it facing in the right way.
Yeah, that'll be very disappointing from him. He was looking very, very good after a qualifying session where he finished in second place. But of course, that didn't determine the grid. It just determined who got to take part in this top 10 shootout. And now he's just looking to set a time, register a time. It won't be good enough to beat Thomas Paul, because he only lost 2 seconds in his lap, and Colin Warwick has most definitely lost more than that so far. So he's just sticking around hoping that Ethan Warren makes a bit of a mistake and does something similar, gets a track cut. In fact, he comes into the pit lane, so he's not going to register a time at all. So he will be starting from 10th. So we're going to turn our attention now to Ethan Warren, who has been, fair to say, the class of this championship for the last couple of months, I'd say. He's won more races than anyone in the last few months and has tended to do them in rather dominant fashion. We hope Jack Maloney can get his pedals up and working pretty soon to give Ethan Warren a bit of a run for his money. But right now, he's looking like he's got a fantastic opportunity to try and nab pole position here for the second time tonight. Comes across to start his lap and pulls a lot of speed, begins the lap, and let's have a watch.
Will we see any cracks form in the unshakable facade that is Ethan Warren? A little bit squirrely there into the chicane and cuts across the chicane a little bit. Hasn't hurt him so far, at least. He is 0.03 up on Ethan Warren's particular lap time. Sorry, this is Ethan Warren. He's 0.3 up on Sean Allen's lap time as he goes down into the back chicane. Will we see any errors creep in? Anything at all? All this pressure on him. He gets up on 2 wheels, but he manages to land it again without too much fuss. Comes out of the chicane, heading up towards the second sector split line now. We'll get to see what sort of time he's put in, and he's still up by 0.08 of a second. He has only got the 1 sector left, which is basically 2 flat-out corners, and it looks as if he has had a decent exit there from the hairpin. Shoots on down towards the penultimate corner, cuts across the bump. You see that car bounce up and down, and he comes around the last corner. It's a very, very, very short lap, right well out on the grass. That would be a track cut, but it isn't. Just he loses time in the third sector, but is still good enough to be ahead of Sean Allen. Sean Allen starting second on the grid.
Well, he's right out wide towards the wall on that final corner. That was the Sean Allen line, but that was not as fast as Sean Allen, because the margin that he had through the second sector came down a little bit in that final sector. And Ethan Warren is the pole sitter with a 1, nabbing pole by just 24 thousandths of a second.
That is probably closer than we would have expected the margin to be at the end of the shootout, with Ethan Warren going for the top step on the front slot on the grid. But nevertheless, the important thing is that he set a time faster than everyone else, and that he will be starting from the front. Can do his patented bugger off into the distance on the first lap while everyone else tussles behind him, and see if he can control the next race as well as he controlled the first, which was an absolutely dominant display from Ethan Warren, ending up about 20 seconds ahead by the end of the first race. So if he repeats that, then he is well and truly in the championship conversation, I would say, especially with those drop rounds that we keep mentioning coming up. We keep mentioning it because it's important. He could get rid of a particular round where he scored no points whatsoever.
Yes, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that impacts the championship fight. But of course, there's a lot of fast drivers around Ethan Warren right now. Sean Allen is fresh off a bit of a mistake that he'll be wanting to make amends for in the first race, where he was running second and looped it and ended up off the podium in the end. Thomas McMillan will also be wanting to make amends after that horrendous drive-through penalty, followed by a retirement in the first race as well. And I think that he's got a decent turn of pace as well if he is allowed to show it. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll bring you all the action on the other side from race 2. Don't go anywhere. Okay.
When it went straight into the second qualifying, I'm like, oh, fuck my throat. I need liquid in my throat.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Where do you put your glasses at? Yeah, but I'll never get my own drinks. I'm not a player. Hey, he's going to have to take it. Water the grass, you know? Yeah, that's pretty good. Gotta keep it hydrated.
Maybe.
Travel pods.
Yeah, I'm going to be one of those wankers who's like organised and shit.
What's a travel pod?
Oh, they're just like little bags you put in your carry-on to, separate your different things.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's not a good screen. Let's change that.
Let's just warm up. Change in a minute anyway.
Yeah. I'm surprised that hasn't crashed yet. I've probably jinxed it now. As soon as this is over, I'm going to check the temperature on that.
Yeah. See how it's doing.
Yeah. Every time like one of them freezes up, I have a minor panic.
As we say.
I was like, hang on, that's not
Kurt Stenberg.
That's Core Preston.
CPU temperature issue. Glad you wrote it down so you don't forget it.
Or just to remind me to fix it.
Pro Tools. I like you.
Welcome back, everyone, to Pukekohe Raceway for the 11th round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. And we're just about to get started for race 2, which is identical in length to the first race, a 35-lap race of 102 kilometres. And although the pit window is somewhere between laps 7 and 27, most of the drivers we saw them taking service at the halfway mark roughly, around about sort of 18, 19 laps, that kind of thing, Madbird.
Yeah, pretty much split it exactly in half, which is probably quite wise if you're not in a tight little scrap there. There's not really too much benefit to trying to over or undercut. We saw Brody Steen try to get the undercut done on Kurt Stenberg, wasn't able to do it in the end, although it was mighty close. And we saw Ethan Warren just streak out to an unopposed victory yet again. So I guess we will we wait with bated breath for the remaining 1 minute and 25 seconds of this warm-up session to anticipate the start of race 2. What are your predictions, Des? What do you think is going to happen in race 2, mate?
Well, I'm hoping Thomas McMillan's going to figure in this battle, and I look forward to seeing what he and Sean Allen do. I don't know if they've got the pace to take the victory fight to Ethan Warren, but certainly the battle for second place between those two is going to be mighty, mighty fun indeed. And I think that Thomas McMillan is either going to finish second or is going to retire from the race.
That would lead into what we've seen from Thomas McMillan in this championship. Don't count Kurt Stenberg out either. He's starting from 4th place behind Sean Allen and Thomas McMillan on the second row of the grid. So he is definitely he's the sort of guy that can just hang on to a battle, and then as soon as there's a little tussle and the guys in front lose time, he swoops up and takes that position, which is what we saw in the first race. He was in 4th place on 1 lap, and 2 laps later he found himself in 2nd place as the cars ahead of him just seemed to part like the Red Sea before Moses as he swung his way up into that second step of the podium. 7 seconds left here in the warm-up session, and then we will be commencing the second race. I am very excited about those first couple of rows of the grid, and I just hope that Thomas McMillan doesn't jump the start again, because we need him up there.
Yeah, we do. We're missing a couple of the protagonists. Jake Maloney, of course, not here tonight, and Kurt Stenberg, well, he's qualified on the second row, so I think he can be reasonably pleased with that, and it's an opportunity for him to extend his championship lead over Jake Maloney. Colin Warwick qualified second to get into the top 10 shootout, and then had a spin coming out of turn number 4, and that has put him out of position somewhat, so he'll be starting from 10th place, and I expect him to improve on that during the race. He was pretty competitive in the first race, so let's see how many positions he can make up in race 2.
Absolutely. Colin Warwick usually a pretty decent bet for a decent finish. He's quite a clean racer usually. Wasn't on display during his shootout lap, unfortunately, but he's usually the sort of flies under the radar and just picks up positions here and there that you don't remark on them too much. There's no huge Larry overtakes, but he nevertheless makes up the positions, and that's why he's 4th or 5th in the championship, I believe, at the moment, despite not winning a race, or I think even really finishing on the podium particularly often. I don't think he's just always sort of been there or thereabouts, those minor places, 4th, 5th, 6th, and has carried home a hefty whack of points. As we've rolled over into another warm-up session, maybe just trying to sort out that starting order, as they did the 2 different sessions. They did the practice session for the main qualifying and then a qualifying session for the shootout, possibly just trying to sort the order out.
Yeah, maybe they need to manually set the grid beyond 10th place. Of course, they will already be in the right order for the top 10 as they had done the session, but there might have been the issue there. I thought it did carry their positions from the practice session into the qualifying if they didn't set a time in qualifying, but I may be wrong on that point. But just a little bit behind schedule. We're aiming to start the second race by 9:20 Australian Eastern Standard Time, and it's nearly 9:20 Australian Eastern Central Time, so about half an hour behind. But I think that was an optimistic schedule anyway, so no matter. It takes longer than you think to get one of these shootouts done, and it gives us an opportunity to fill. So it's what was the thing that going into tonight you really wanted to get off your chest, Madbird?
Regarding the Automobilista Supercars Championship,
yes.
Or I'm really looking forward to the Bathurst 1000.
That's very good. Very good, actually. We probably should talk about that. For those listening, we are, of course, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, doing a full-length Bathurst 1000, and that is going to be taking place over the weekend on the 20th of October, I believe that is, the Sunday the 20th, and then the qualifying the day before that on the Saturday evening. So that'll be a shootout, of course, again, with a qualifying session preceding that, and then they will have a full night to sort out the grid for the race itself. And of course the Super 2 race, which we're also broadcasting, which is a little bit different as well, so that'll be on the Tuesday.
Yeah, get to see some names that we're becoming more familiar with, the types like the likes of Jack Handel and Thomas Paul from Super 2, and of course a bunch of names that we're probably not going to be familiar with, the rising stars of Automobilista Supercar Championship, who are currently down in the little leagues, as it was, still probably all a lot faster than I am, and as you say, Bathurst 1000 qualifying on the Saturday and then the race on Sunday, so we'll have no excuse if there's any issues with the order on Sunday. But we have everyone now lining up on the grid. We've got 50 minutes on the clock. I doubt it will take that long. The lap around here is just the light side on the other end of a minute, and even with a pit stop, we're probably looking at about maybe 40 minutes for this particular race. Just a tiny bit over. Someone's flashing their lights, watching the broadcast maybe, and they're trying to communicate with me in what's the thing?
Morse code.
Morse code. Thank you very much. Completely forgot my words.
Yeah, Morse code, a bit of a backwards way of communication, but it goes without saying that this is a bit of a backwards country. I joke. Although the Nokia signs in the background are backwards, so that's a bit of backwards communication. Madbird, take us through the grid.
Also, Stock Car Extreme logos are a little bit backwards. Ethan Warren starting from the front of the grid for the second race in a row. Probably more than the second race in a row. I reckon he did at the Bend as well. A dominant performance in the first race, probably in the second. Sean Allen for Race on Oz, second place on the grid. Very happy with that after a slightly disappointing race one. Should have ended on the podium, but had a couple of errors. Thomas McMillan, also a disappointing race one, got a drive-through penalty off the start for jumping it. Won't want to do that this time. Kurt Stenberg, however, it will be hoping that he definitely does not jump the start, so he can jump the start ahead of Thomas McMillan into third place, starting as he is in fourth. Nigel Marneef, very high up the grid, up in fifth place with Corey Preston behind him in sixth. Zach Baker in seventh with a messy shootout lap, but not as messy as Instinct behind him in eighth. Thomas Paul in ninth, who started out in second the first race, so he was well out of position. Expect him to gain some positions. Colin Warwick also a bit out of position, down in 10th place. Had a very, very scruffy shootout lap. Brody Steen just missing out on the top 10 shootout as he is down in 11th place. Jack Handel, another one of our quick Super 2 runners, down in 12th place. Job Stewart, newcomer to ASC, but from V8 Scops, so definitely knows his way around one of these cars. He's in 13th. Will Devenish ahead of Jay Borg in 15th, with Jinx in 16th. Aidan Schultz for Team 11, number 11, in 17th. Try saying that 4 times fast. Oz Rob for the other War Race Engineering down in 18th, followed by RSM Latino, another one of our Super 2 graduates. David Nadich down in 20th position, so very poor qualifying for him. He would expect better. Tony in 21st, and Griffin Gardner, a name that I have not called in a few weeks' time, for Zero Esports Racing, last on the grid, 22nd place.
Yeah, a couple of guys joining us, it looks like, after qualifying and racing in the second race, so that's very good to see. The lights are on. We're about to get racing for the second time here in Pukekohe, and there is a smoke cloud ascending over the field as they get away, and it looks like it's been a pretty good start there for Thomas McMillan in second place ahead of Sean Allen, and someone in the background there diving a number of positions. Let's have a look at them as they shuffle their way through the first chicane, and it looks like they've all got through cleanly, but look at them fanning out behind. Some defensive manoeuvring there from Corey Preston as Kurt Stenberg tries to go down the inside.
Yeah, incredible start from Corey Preston. I don't think Kurt will be happy with that, though, down the back straight.
For the lead, Thomas McMillan.
Thomas McMillan all over the back of Ethan Warren for the lead through the back chicane. Ethan Warren wasn't under any pressure like this through the entire first race. He won't be used to it. Thomas McMillan all over the back of him, now down into the hairpin. God, this guy is quick. We just didn't see it last time around. And we've got Sean Allen not happy about losing that second position to Thomas McMillan off the start, all over the back of him as well. But Thomas McMillan is so close. He is probably as close to Ethan Warren as anyone was for the entire running of the first race. And he's right on the back of him, heading down the start-finish straight towards the first corner. Going to carry a lot of speed into here. He's going to get a bit of a slipstream. Dabs on the brakes as he turns in. Gets a better line, I think, than Ethan Warren, but not quite as quick. Better into the chicane. Ethan Warren with a tiny lock-up, but Thomas McMillan very, very clean. And Ethan Warren squirrels a little bit under throttle, but Thomas McMillan much cleaner, and he's pulling in time on Ethan Warren down this back straight towards the chicane, now down to 0.3 of a second between the two of them. Will Thomas McMillan be close enough to have a go? No, he won't. Into the chicane. Both braking. Ethan Warren squirrely under brakes, just trying to wrestle that car into a straight line. As Thomas McMillan all over the back of him now. He is so close. This is very, very close between the first two runners.
Well, here we go. Here's the move.
Dive into the hairpin. Taps the back of him. Was never going to get that job done, I think. That was very ambitious there from Thomas McMillan. He's going to have to try to think this one out and get the job done.
And Kurt Stenberg has broken the toe from Corey Preston, who is now holding up a bit of a field there in 5th place as they all bunch up in the same way as they did in the first race. You can see the two groups starting to form and Kurt Stenberg trying to go with the front three. Fastest lap from Ethan Warren. We've got Jinx in the wall in the background. Can he recover that without triggering a safety car? It looks as though he has been able to do so, but unfortunately he is in the garage, so we've got our first retirement already. Ethan Warren still leads. Jinx remains the only guy to come unstuck, and Kurt Stenberg is now quite clear of this battle here. Here is the battle for 5th place. Corey Preston and everyone else behind.
Yeah, he's a little bit of the... Oh, and he's just gone off the track and has skipped the chicane.
Oh, no.
Gone through the tyre barriers. So he has not managed to stay the cork in the bottle. Never mind, yes, he has. Much to the frustration of everyone behind him, he managed to keep that 5th position over them by skipping the chicane. That is a gaggle, I would describe, behind Corey Preston. Meanwhile, at the front here, we've got Thomas McMillan under 0.3 of a second behind Ethan Warren. An incredible run. Ethan Warren a very bad run through the last corner, so Thomas McMillan might be able to have a go down into the first chicane. Not a particularly safe opportunity for a pass, but nevertheless, I would not put it past Thomas McMillan to try it. We saw him try it at the hairpin and just nothing
more
doing.
Issues for Corey Preston. He's off the track at the chicane again.
Yeah, Corey Preston having all kinds of issues. He's down into 12th now.
Oh, no,
he was in 5th. And someone's around. That is one of the Race on Oz cars. I believe that was... Who was it?
We'll try and get... No, I think it was the Penrite car, but now we've got a battle continuing for the lead. Thomas McMillan looking like he was going to get the move done at the chicane. Oh, big slidey moment there for Ethan Warren under traction. He nearly lost the back end, gets a little bit of a tap. Morse code, as we were talking about, on the rear from Thomas McMillan, and this is absolutely music to the ears of Sean Allen, and, well, Rembrandt to the eyes, I should say, because he can see these two tripping over each other, and he will go right through to take victory if these two crash into each other. Now, first corner, looks like he's trying to go down the inside, but that would be a very brave move. Thomas McMillan's gone spearing off. Unbelievable! Into the wall! I said he'd finish second or he'd not finish at all, and it looks like it's going to be the latter. How hugely unfortunate for us, because that was going to be an absolutely ding-dong battle. Let's catch the replay. Through the first corner, I think he just tagged the back of Ethan Warren, which unsettled his car. He went straight into the wall, and that is all she wrote for Thomas McMillan.
That is a damn shame. He is an incredibly fast racer, but it's either all or nothing for him, and in this case it happens to be nothing. That is a damn shame. That was shaping up to be an incredible battle. Nevertheless, we do still have Sean Allen here behind Ethan Warren, less than a second, although it is slowly building. Ethan Warren probably with a little bit of the monkey off his back, that monkey being Thomas McMillan, and that monkey now being in its place in the garage along with Jinx. So Ethan Warren now about a second ahead of Sean Allen, and that's growing second by second. So I believe that the challenge there for the victory over Ethan Warren has abated. It all remains to be seen if Ethan Warren can keep it clean.
Look at this. Instinct is in 4th place. That's got to be a fantastic result for him if he can keep this going. Still very, very early days indeed. only lap 6 of 35.
Oh.
Who's that? Nigel Manif pulling off, or is it Nigel Manif pulling off the side of the road? What has happened to Nigel Manif? He's retired. That's the answer. Let's see if we can catch a replay of what happened to him. And was there there's probably contact earlier than that. He's pulling over to the side of the racetrack. And I wonder if he's blown an engine. I can't see any smoke coming out. That's a very strange retirement.
Possibly called to go get some donuts, as happened in the AMS Oz Championship last time out. Kurt Stenberg is under a little bit of pressure. No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong person.
Job Stewart's under some pressure.
Job Stewart is under a little bit of pressure, from Zach Baker for 5th place.
Oh.
Job Stewart very wide out on the grass, as we've got replay here of Griffin Gardner. Griffin Gardner, that name I love so much, having a bit of issues in his battle with Colin Warwick. Zach Baker all over the back of Job Stewart heading into the chicane, and Brody Steen up 4 places from his starting in position in 11th. Got a watching brief on this. There's going to be a big slipstream train. We've got Thomas Paul right behind Jack Handel, who's right behind Brody Steen, who's right behind Zach Baker, who's right behind Job Stewart, heading down into the chicane. This is a tight little battle of 5 cars, all wanting to sit in that current position that Job Stewart's in, which is 5th. So 5 cars into 5 does go once, and currently that one is Job Stewart. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, it's very hard to know where to look right now. We've got cars going off the track left, right, and centre, and that's very, very difficult to keep track of sometimes. We've already got 2 cars off, and those are Nigel Manif and Jinx, the other man who has retired from the race. Ethan Warren has just set the fastest lap of the race, by the way, a 1:02.2. Pulls out 0.7 of a second on Sean Allen on that previous lap. Bit of a lock-up from Kurt Stenberg in the foreground, though, there. But Job Stewart is the man who's currently under the big... Sorry, that was Instinct, not Kurt Stenberg. Beg your pardon for that. And Job Stewart leading home that gaggle of 5 cars and hoping that he can hold on to that. And this is by far the closest battle on the racetrack. No one switching order there. Different cars taking different amounts of curb through there.
Yeah, it allows some differing lines through that chicane. You can sort of take a very tight entry, but then carry a bit of speed towards the second corner of the chicane, or you can take a tight corner and or take a wide corner, and carry a bit more speed through the first section. So we've got Kurt Stenberg well out on the grass, going down the start-finish straight. Hasn't cost him anything. Instinct not close enough to capitalise on any pressure that Kurt Stenberg seems to be putting on himself more than anything. Just pushing to try to catch up to Sean Allen, who is currently clear with 2 seconds ahead and behind him in 2nd place. Instinct, as you did say earlier, is currently in 4th, up 4 positions from his start, and Job Stewart currently holding up that gaggle that we spoke about before. Oh, and it looked like someone straight into the wall. It's Thomas Paul. Oh, no, he's come to a stop. After the first race, he's DNF'd. The first race started in 2nd and lost all those positions with an early spin, and it looks as if same thing's happened to Colin Warwick. Colin Warwick in the wall. In the same location, by the looks of it, he's managed to continue. Fortunately for him, he's managed to continue. But unfortunately for Thomas Paul, straight into the wall.
Badly damaged.
He is very badly damaged. He is missing the chicane. As you can see, all the smoke pouring out of the front left of that car. That's the 2nd or 3rd time we've seen that happen at that particular corner onto the back straight.
I wonder if that's the Logitech issues that we were hearing about, and as a result of the Automobilista updates causing some problems. So all of a sudden our retirement list has grown a little bit. Nigel Manif, Thomas Paul.
Oh!
Who's that?
That was Corey Preston. Corey Preston just got spun around by, I think it was Griffin Gardner.
Tony.
It looked as if he was helped around at least. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't want to speak before I've seen the footage, but I cut to the footage just as Corey Preston was being helped around by. It looks as if he was already having issues. He's just skated across the chicane, and then I believe he was just helped around in a circle by Griffin Gardner. Indeed, looks like that, through the penultimate corner, right behind him into the bump, and then gives him a bump himself into the last corner and just spins him right around. So Corey Preston will not be happy with that, and I don't believe the stewards would be particularly happy with that from Griffin Gardner either. There's some close racing, but not close in a good way. Colin Warwick is in the pits taking service. might take the opportunity to fuel to the end and change his tyres as well, since he was fixing his car up anyways.
And he's gone a lap down as well, so that's absolutely killed his race. So a decent showing in prospect. He looked like he might get a few positions from where he started. He had a bit of a nightmare at that corner in the shootout, and he's had another nightmare there in the race. So it's not going to be as rosy as it was in the first race for poor old Colin Warwick.
Absolutely, and Thomas Paul falling out into the wall. Thomas Paul finding the wall has made this battle for fifth that was 5 cars is now 4 cars, and it looks as if at least one of those cars, Jack Handel, is aiming to take an early pit stop this lap, see if he can get an undercut done over these runners in front of him who are just wearing their tyres out. So we've got Job Stewart, Zach Baker, and Brody Steen all passing the pit entry, and Jack Handel does as well. So looks as if he's not coming into the pits this time around. Might be worth it though, just to get out of this. Get out of this battle. He's not making any progress in it. Get some fresh tyres on, and then hopefully when the pit stops shake out, you find yourself in front.
Already about 1/3 of the way into this race, and Will Devenish is one of the big movers who missed out on the top 10 shootout, the first time that he's missed out on a top 10 shootout this year, and he unfortunately started from 14th, but fortunately from him, he's up 5 spots from where he started, and there are quite a few other drivers in the top 10 who that can be said for as well. Brody Steen up 4 spots.
Yeah, he is, and he's putting a lot of pressure on the back of Zach Baker currently, and Jack Handel putting a lot of pressure on the back of Brody Steen. So we are 12 laps into this race. We have 4 DNFs currently. And if the first race is anything to go by, we're probably going to have a few more, as everyone goes straight past the pit entry. So that pit entry, that pit confirm icon that I've got showing up on Jack Handel's screen, possibly an error, because he certainly doesn't look like he's coming into the pits right now. Jay Borg and Griffin Gardner now having a battle.
Griffin Gardner in 11th place. And he's just behind, not just behind, about 5 seconds behind David Nenadic, who's made his way up into the top 10 from starting 20th on the grid. Cool. Let's have a look at that battle now between Griffin Gardner and Jay Borg. They're doing a decent job. Oh, someone's had a big spin in the background there. Who was that?
Not sure. Just caught the very end of it. I reckon it was Corey Preston again, possibly. No, it was Aiden Schultz, similar looking car, off at turn 1 into the gravel trap. Just
single car accident.
Yeah, did it all by himself. Never mind, not a single car accident. It has a bit of contact there with I believe that was Corey Preston. Was. Yeah, so Corey Preston unfortunately getting caught out in that. Just nowhere he could go. As we've got Brody Steen putting Zach Baker under an increasing amount of pressure for 6th place. Zach Baker with a very messy run through the last corner, and Brody Steen all over the back of him. He's been on the back of him for the last few laps, but this is, I imagine that this particular position is going to be sorted out sooner rather than later. Brody Steen with a much better run there through the chicane as he comes onto the back straight. Zach Baker starts to pull away a little bit, and now Jack Handel right on the back of Brody Steen heading down into the back chicane.
And Instinct is now coming under a bit of pressure from Joe Stewart. You saw him in that previous shot as he goes deep into the chicane, weaving across the track to try and break the toe. And like it says on the side of his car, that was a bit of a fail. Didn't work because the slipstream is now academic, because you can see that gap is absolutely visual, and Instinct coming under some increased pressure from Job Stewart and diving straight into the pits. Probably a good choice.
Yeah, get out of it. He was going to lose that position most likely to Job Stewart in the next lap or two, and just waste a lot of time trying to defend from it. So get out of there, get out of that battle, put some fresh rubber on and some and fuel to the end, and just get yourself some clear air, and you might find that you've overcut the car that was about to lap you. Meanwhile, we've got Zach Baker still under incredible pressure here from Brody Steen, under half a second between the two of them. And Jack Handel, it's line astern between 4th and 7th currently, with a huge gap back to Will Devenish in 8th position.
Yeah, so just waiting now to see if we see any of the leaders come through into the pit lane. Ethan Warren's gone past the pit entry. It's only lap 15, so unless there was a threat of an undercut or the chance of an overcut, you don't expect that to be something that they will do. Made sense for Adrian Instinct. Bit of a wiggle there from one of the cars there. It was Zach Baker. And that's put him a little bit further behind Job Stewart and under increasing pressure from Brody Steen as they come around to start the 16th lap of this race. Ethan Warren leads by nearly 5 seconds now. He's just eking out that margin bit by bit over Sean Allen, who in turn is eking out a margin quite equidistant to the top three. Kurt Stenberg quite safe in third place, it would seem, as Job Stewart, the man you're looking at on the screen, is the best part of 8 seconds behind him.
Yeah, he's just been caught up in these in this battle with the mid-pack, although he's got a decent second now over Zach Baker. See Brody Steen there in the background, squirreling under brakes, trying to get his car stopped without going into the back of Zach Baker to help him stop it, and managed to do so in the end. This is someone's going to break eventually between these three. Someone's going to the stress is going to be too much, and they're going to spear off and into a wall. And for Brody Steen, he would be hoping that it's going to be Zach Baker. As Jack Handel pulls into the pits behind them, he was incredibly close behind Brody Steen as he pulls into the pits. So he would be hoping for an overcut, get some fresh tyres on, and smash out some hot laps.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he comes out also in relation to Instinct, who tried for a bit of an undercut there, whether he's gained some time or lost some. Decent battle also going on for 7th. This was 8th place before, between Will Devonish and Griffin Gardner, and that seems to be a battle in which Will Devonish has been losing time steadily to Griffin Gardner, but Griffin Gardner got a track cut, it appears, on the previous lap, so we can't give you a direct comparison on that last lap for them.
Yeah, so track cuts are creeping in. They don't want to get too many of them, or they will get a penalty. Thought that I saw Will Devonish in a battle there, but I think he was just lapping Colin Warwick.
Well, here we go, Jack Handel in Instinct.
Jack Handel coming out of the pits into, what position is he in?
15th.
He is coming out in 15th, and Instinct has gone through ahead of him by about 2 seconds. So Instinct doing well there to hang on to that position ahead of Jack Handel. Zach Baker has now come into the pits
and also
from his battle with Brody Steen. Brody Steen has continued on.
Yes, and as well as Zach Baker, we have also had Job Stewart come into the pit lane.
And Sean Allen, I believe from second position, Sean Allen has come into the pits. So currently we have Ethan Warren, but from Kurt Stenberg from Brody Steen. So same teams on the podium, but in a different order, and a different Race on Oz driver currently in third place.
Yeah, so Ethan Warren also continuing around just as he said that he went past the pit entry.
So Zach Baker now filing out of the pit lane right behind Job Stewart. So he hasn't made that position up, obviously. Whereas Jack Handel in comparison to this. So Jack Handel in Instinct flies past Zach Baker, but is behind Job Stewart now. And it looks as if Zach Baker has not lost that position to Jack Handel, who is still behind Zach, the ZB Racing driver. And a messy couple of corners there for Zach Baker. So it's a good thing he had a bit of buffer between himself and Jack Handel behind, because he could have easily lost that position. Brody Steen now the one to watch, because when he comes into the pits, he will be incredibly close to the runners of Zach Baker and Jack Gardner. Oh, Will Devonish around!
Oh, Will Devonish is around from 4th place. We'll try and get a replay of what happened there. For Will Devonish, he's gone back to 5th, 6th. No, he's gone well back. Meanwhile, race leader Ethan Warren is in the pits, so we'll unfortunately probably won't pick up that replay, because we've got to see where Ethan Warren comes out. And we've also got someone pitting behind. I believe that was one of the lapped runners, and behind him, Kurt Stenberg appears to have stayed out, so he is in the lead.
Yeah, so Ethan Warren temporarily has the lead of this race, at least until he pits. So Ethan Warren trundling down the pit lane, just coming into his pit box now, as Brody Steen also pits. So keep a watching brief on that. Sean Allen is just heading down towards the hairpin. He was the second place man, so if anyone is to undercut Ethan Warren, it would be him. He's just come out of the hairpin now, heading down towards the penultimate corner. Ethan Warren already heading towards the exit of the pits. and he crosses the line right about now and begins to floor it. Ethan Warren I thought that was Ethan Warren with the drive-through penalty there for a sec, but it is Tony. And Sean Allen has not gained that position over Ethan Warren. He is still the better part of 4.5 seconds down on Ethan Warren. So Kurt Stenberg, once he pits, will probably still come back out in that third position. Brody Steen has come out into 7th place. So Brody Steen has made that position up over Zach Baker. And Zach Baker, right into the back of Brody Steen, hasn't cost either of them any time, but that was a bit of a hefty bump by the looks of it. But Brody Steen, that undercut has done him wonders. He's passed Zach Baker, although Zach Baker now having a go down the back straight into the back chicane. They both break it around the same point. Zach Baker's going to have the inside into the chicane. Both very close, very, very clean racing from these two. They're both giving them each other space. Brody Steen a little bit wiggly on the exit. That's going to give Zach Baker the advantage heading down into the hairpin. Although Brody Steen will have the run around the outside. Zach Baker on cold tyres locking up. Brody Steen gets forced wide and is relegated back down to 8th place, #relegated. And he is going to have to try to put the pressure on and get that job done on Zach Baker on track. Because Zach Baker has said, no, I don't care if you've undercut me. I'm having that position right back, mate.
Yeah, Brody Steen. I wonder if Sean Allen has given him any advice about outbraking guys, because Sean Allen is one of the strongest last of the late breakers, as they say, in this game. But Brody Steen shortcuts the chicane just a little bit there. Didn't quite get it stopped. Kurt Stenberg still leads the race. He's continuing around for another lap, making it a very, very long first stint, and is lapping in the 103s. Ethan Warren still getting up to speed, so we'll wait to see what happens there. Brody Steen, though, has a little bit of breathing space as Zach Baker has a bit of breathing space as Brody Steen outbreaks himself into the chicane. And that battle, I wonder if we're going to see that close up again. Now we've got Kurt Stenberg coming around the hairpin. We just want to see if he comes into the pits on this lap. I would very much expect him to come in because it's a very, very long stint, and indeed he does.
Yeah, well, behind them we've got Instinct putting the pressure on. Putting the pressure on Job Stewart for 4th place. It's quite close between the two of them. Instinct came out behind Job Stewart after the pit stops, but it was a pretty close margin between the two. It's still under a second, and between that and Job, looks like Brody Steen has lost out to Zach Baker in a huge way. He's now 1.5 seconds behind, so not going to happen for him at this current moment in time in any particular way. Kurt Stenberg just coming into his pit box now as Ethan Warren's rounding the last corner onto the start-finish straight, so no contest. Ethan Warren retakes the lead of the race handily as Sean Allen just coming through past the pit exit, so Kurt Stenberg again. Oh! A little bit of a hairy exit as he put his foot in it and hit the wall a tiny bit, but probably no harm done as he takes 3rd place comfortably over Job Stewart down in 4th. That's about 8.5 seconds, the buffer.
Yeah, those gaps are roughly similar to what they were before the pit stops. Hopefully Kurt Stenberg didn't get too much damage from that little indiscretion as he lit the rears up and it just glanced the wall. So that's that battle pretty much done unless one of them makes a colossal mess of things. Now, Job Stewart has maintained the advantage that he had over Instinct in the post-pit stop phase, and they're all starting to stretch away a little bit with Job Stewart putting Instinct under a fair bit of pressure just prior to the pit stops, and the undercut not effective for Job Stewart. Meanwhile, behind, we've got a bit of a battle now between Brody Steen and Jack Handel, which is a bit of a seesawing thing for Brody Steen because he was putting Zach Baker under pressure a couple of laps ago. Now he's coming under pressure himself from that of Jack Handel. So it's a good run for Jack Handel. He was only a fraction faster on the previous lap. He actually lost about 1.5 tenths in the last 2 laps, did Zach Baker. So did Brody Steen, I beg your pardon. And it's not coming down by huge chunks, but it's enough to make it interesting.
Absolutely, and it's all pressure. It's all pressure that he probably doesn't need right about now, having lost that position to Zach Baker following the pit stops. His teammate Sean Allen currently sitting pretty in second place, but remember last time out in race 1, he was sitting pretty in the podium places and then span all by himself and cost himself a podium finish. So probably not wanting to repeat that is an understatement, but still something that he has done in the past. So don't count that as rote currently. Although Ethan Warren only with a 7-second lead, which is positively nothing compared to his 20-second lead that he had at this point in the first race. So Sean Allen doing a decent job to keep in touch with Ethan Warren, even if that touch is with about a 20-foot monkey pole.
What? Got monkeys on the mind, my friend.
I really do.
You do. Let's have a quick stock take if Jack Handel doesn't have a dive at this chicane of where the race is at with 10 laps remaining. Ethan Warren leads the race quite comfortably by 7 seconds. That gap's coming up quite quickly actually now because Ethan Warren's just set the fastest lap of the race, nearly into the 101s again. So fantastic job from Ethan Warren, and I think he is absolutely stamping his intention, stamping his notice of his intention to contest this championship because he's been very, very much the man to beat in recent races.
Stamping it with his autograph.
Stamping it with his autograph. Don't know what that means. Sean Allen in second place is having a terrific race, and second place is not his best result of the championship. He's won a couple of races back in Perth, but he has got a number of podiums in this championship and looking to add to what's been quite a decent season for himself. Kurt Stenberg in third place will extend his championship advantage, and at the moment he's the only man in the 102s apart from Ethan Warren, so that's pretty significant. Now we've just lost Brody Steen from the Jack Handel battle. I think he's had a bit of a moment not too long ago. Let's try and see if we can catch a replay of what happened there. And there it is, spinning around at the chicane. So that was a bit of a gift for Jack Handel.
Yeah, absolutely. Up 5 positions from his start, down in 12th is Jack Handel, with a couple of decent results tonight if he manages to hold on to this, which will certainly be pushing for his promotion from the Super 2 into the big leagues, as he's currently sitting pretty in 7th place, with Brody Steen probably quite frustrated down in 8th place. He's just gone nowhere but backwards since the pit stops, came out in 5th place and is now finding himself down in 8th. Job Stewart has managed to sort of put paid to that little battle he had brewing with Instinct. Instinct has just dropped away about 2 seconds, fail indeed. And Kurt Stenberg, the only runner currently up in 3rd place, because there is only one 3rd place to be in. You can. I don't appreciate the laughter from my co-commentator.
I've done plenty of.
That is a flub, and I will 100% own it. And then of course we do have how many people? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh.
6 runners.
Hang on.
Who's out? Who's that?
That was Kurt Stenberg. It was a lap runner incident. It wasn't. No one's out of the race. But let's catch a replay. I just caught the tail end of that as it was occurring. As
What race engineer
tried to go through what either Ozrob or Will Devonish. It was a spin for Ozrob, and incredibly unfortunate for Kurt Stenberg, who accumulates a little bit more damage to his car. But he should be all right. Meanwhile, Instinct is coming under renewed pressure, and that is for 5th place with Zach Baker challenging him. So it's all happening in the tail end of this race. Always when we do a bit of a stock take, that tends to be when we cause things to happen. Instinct trying to defend that position, taking a narrow line on the entry and just struggling for reattraction coming out of the corner.
Absolutely. Some fighting words in the chat from Thomas McMillan saying Ozrob should be in Super 2. So possibly believes that a demotion should be in order. I don't know. Ozrob was pretty well placed in the first race.
Them's fighting words for a man who was in the wall at lap 3, but Ozrob's reasonably quick, but I think he's not in alien status.
No, definitely not. And yeah, very strong words coming from someone who apparently doesn't even know how he crashed. I'd say you probably lost control of your car.
Oh, speaking of lost control, Kurt Stenberg has just spun the rears and is coming under pressure himself now. I was going to say for third place, but that gap actually is a lot bigger than I thought it was. 8 seconds it is, so he should be all right. Kurt Stenberg with another late race heart flutter. We saw something like that, similar happen in the bend where he got a bit of a curb glitch. That one was his fault. And Kurt does have damage. We're pretty, we should be keeping an eye on what that's doing to his lap times, a 104.8, but of course that was the spin in the middle sector. Through the first sector, well, it's all right, 12.2. That's similar to what Ethan Warren did as Instinct and Jack Baker are getting into each other there. So they're fighting hammer and tongs over 5th and 6th place.
Ethan Warren looks like he's had an issue somewhere. Thank you to Thomas McMillan for catching that in the chat, and with a little snarky, you missed it. So we'll go back and see if we can find some footage of that, because that gap to Sean Allen is now, well, I'd say cut to 5 seconds. 5 seconds is pretty significant, as we're just scrolling back through the footage here, trying to find what it was that happened. Can't have been a particularly big incident. There we go. So looks like another lapped runner issue. That's one of the Stealth Penrite cars. Goes straight, just honestly, that's a little bit Ethan Warren's bad, to be honest. He should have been anticipating the other guy to be a lot slower, or just go for the overtake even. But regardless, it hasn't really cost him too much. Under 5 seconds to Sean Allen now, but that is still well and truly comfortable for the last 4 laps of this race.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult. Sometimes you just, as the leader, you don't expect the lap runners to be quite as slow as they are, and of course when they're on the racing line, if you do misjudge that, it's very, very difficult. So Ethan Warren now probably carrying a bit of damage from that as well, although he was still in the 102s on the previous lap and he was the only driver to do so. I think Kurt Stenberg's doing all right. He's still in the low 103s himself, so that gap between himself and Job Stewart, 8 seconds. So although we've had a couple of nervous moments for the top 3, the positions haven't changed.
Absolutely. So we've got our 6 DNFs of Griffin Gardner. Don't remember when that happened. Corey Preston, Thomas Paul, Nigel Munteith, Thomas McMillan, and Jenks. A lot of retirements happening tonight. If Pukekohe Raceway were the United States of America, I would say that the garages are Florida, because my lord, there are a lot of retirements happening in there. Ethan Warren just leading, just nursing this car home. Probably put the fright up him a little bit. He might be taking the foot off the pedal just a little bit earlier into corners. 32 laps done, just about to start the 33rd, with 3 laps left to run for the Astra Altus Esports driver. And apart from that particular little incident, which, as you say, it's not cut and dry that Ethan Warren was the problem in that particular incident. It's been a pretty flawless night for Ethan Warren, I'd say, Stairs. I don't think you'd particularly argue that point with me.
Yeah, first mistake I think we've seen him make all night, really, if you can call that a mistake. And I mean, yeah, I think you probably do have to place a bit of blame on Ethan Warren, and also a bit of blame on the back marker. It takes two to tango. But really, Sean Allen, I don't think would have ever thought that he was in with a shot of winning this race, and he probably still doesn't. So he's in 2nd place, and I think he'll be quite happy with that result, as we see one of the War Race Engineering cars. I wonder if that's Ozrob again. He's been in the wars today in the back of that shot, spinning it up. He's 1 lap down. His teammate Will Devonish has no one around him, really. Colin Warwick, recovering from a bad start, has got himself back on the lead lap, so he'll be happy with that. Getting that earlier pit stop, so that would be why he got his lap back. This is the closest battle on track here, I believe, between Zach Baker and Instinct. Job Stewart's about 4 seconds up the road now. And Jack Handel behind them, having a bit of a battle with Brody Steen, actually. That's another close battle. So let's see if that's worth having a bit of a look at.
Yeah, so after a bit of a disappointing second stint for Brody Steen, it looks like he's closed that back up to Jack Handel. Did lose that position when he span up in the back chicane, but looks like he's putting Jack Handel under all sorts of pressure. He's trying to have a go down into turn 1. That won't go, mate. That car is getting sucked towards the apex like a vacuum cleaner as they go through the first couple of corners onto the back straight here. Brody Steen with a better exit by the looks of it. This is going to be his prime opportunity, I believe, down into the back chicane into turn, I want to say 6. Probably wrong.
5.
He tries to go the long way around, doesn't, locks up, and that's going to cost him a little bit of time. But Jack Handel also locking up. Oh, and he's tapped. Brody Steen gave him a little tap, and he's lifted out of it. He hasn't gained anything out of that. In fact, he's lost. He's lost about half a second, and locking up again the front right of that race on Oscar, just not behaving itself. As Ethan Warren's got to be starting the last lap, Stairs.
He's nearly completing the last lap. He's in the middle sector right now. While you were talking, of course, we also had that other battle going on between Instinct and Zach Baker. Instinct got a little bit of a swapper on coming out of the hairpin and lost quite a few car lengths, putting him out of contention for that battle. So it looks like he's going to finish in 6th place. But Ethan Warren is going to finish in 1st place for yet another perfect round from him. And apart from that moment with the back marker that we saw awkwardly a few laps ago, he's been absolutely untouchable today. And he comes across the line to win in Pukekohe. Well done, Ethan Warren. Behind him, it's going to be Sean Allen coming in 3rd place. A great job from him. And Kurt Stenberg rounds out the podium in 3rd place to put another big chunk of points in his back pocket.
And I would hasten to say another pretty big railway spike in the coffin of Jake Maloney's championship charge. That is a almighty haul of points that Kurt Stenberg has pulled in over his rival, with Jake Maloney not taking.
Here we go, Jack Handel.
Jack Handel and Brody Steen tussling to the line.
Oh!
Brody Steen gets the job done before the line. Did he?
I think Jack Handel lost it.
Yeah, Jack Handel is just coasting down towards the first turn. Well, I don't have a headset on for that particular computer, so I can't hear anything, but it appears to be just coasting. He hasn't put any throttle in for quite a while. That would be gutting if he has run out of fuel on the penultimate corner.
And just another race to the line. I wonder if this one was fuel as well. Will Devonish lost a lot of time to Colin Warwick in the end and just holds him off for 9th place. Colin Warwick finishes exactly where he started, but that certainly doesn't tell the story of his race. And that rounds out the top 10 with Jay Borg in 11th, Aidan Schultz in 12th place, Ozrob finishes in 13th, David Nenadich in 14th, was up as high as 10th at one point, but it obviously all fell apart for him at one stage. Tony in 15th, and RSM Latino in 16th was our last finisher, with Griffin Gardner, Corey Preston, Thomas Paul, Nigel Munif, and I believe a couple others, Jinx included, retiring from the race.
Yeah, a bunch of people retiring from the race, including, of course, Thomas McMillan, who finished behind apparently Super 2 material Ozrob, who, of course, finished the race. So very well done to Ozrob. And better luck next time for Thomas McMillan, as we've got the podium sitters lining up for their photo with Sean Allen in the middle, usually where the winner sits, but He drove a good race. He kept pressure on Ethan Warren for the entire race. Never saw the lead balloon out as we did in the first race to 20 odd seconds and stuff. So very well done to Sean Allen for keeping even within touching distance. And Kurt Stenberg again, an incredible haul of points over his rival tonight.
Yeah, he can be happy in one respect that he's found some points tonight, but he won't have wanted to get them that way. And Tony's got himself disqualified, so he's gone backwards somewhere or gone the wrong way up a access road in the middle of the racetrack. But that's all she wrote for Pukekohe, and it was a lot of action. It was sometimes hard to know where to look, but at the front it was absolutely the story of Ethan Warren, and it's a timely time to find some form because he is he's the man to beat going into the Bathurst 1000. Depending, of course, on who he teams up with. I believe I saw he's planning on teaming up with Colin Warwick, so that'll be interesting.
That'd be a very interesting combination. But coming good and attending races right at the tail end of the season, and he is absolutely smashing it. There you can see. So the only races we've got left are the enduros. We've got Bathurst, Sandown, Newcastle, and help me out. What was the last one?
Newcastle.
I did say Newcastle. There was a fourth one. Adelaide. No.
I didn't hear the other ones you said. I beg your pardon.
My goodness.
Did you miss Gold Coast?
I did miss Gold Coast because I fucking hate Gold Coast. But it's going to be a very interesting end of the season, I think, with the pace that he has and the momentum that he has built over the last few weeks. He is going to be going into these endurance rounds as a clear favourite in a solo capacity. With a teammate like Colin Warwick, who's pretty bloody consistent and can just hold position when he needs to. I reckon Ethan Warren's pretty good idea that he will pretty good bet to be right up there or thereabouts in terms of the winning of those particular enduros. My goodness.
Well, moving on.
Please.
Let's have a chat to our podium sitters for today, starting with our race. Hang on, they can't hear me. So let's have a chat to our podium sitters. Starting off with Ethan Warren. Congratulations, Ethan. It was absolutely dominant performance from yourself today. From what we saw, the only blemish on today was a bit of an incident with the back marker, but absolutely class of the field today. Ethan? Can anyone hear me? Okay, let's move on. Maybe he's AFK right now. Let's talk to Kurt Stenberg, who was another double podium sitter today, finishing second in race number 1 and finishing third in race 3. Kurt, a good night from you from the championship, but of course not the way you would want to gain those points with the Jake Maloney dealing with technical issues tonight, it appears. Yeah, very, very unfortunate. Talk us through your races. It was pretty lonely old race number 2 for you. Race 1 was a bit different with lots of different things going on. Tell us how that worked out for you. There you go. So we saw a little bit of a moment as well coming out of the pits, and also another bit of a tangle with a back marker. Of course, you weren't the only leader to deal with the back markers and spinning in inopportune moments. Yeah, I was going to ask. So the pace looked okay from you after that, but carrying a bit of damage, that was from that incident then, not the exit of the pit lane incident. Absolutely. Thank you, Kurt. Turning our attention to the Race on Oz guys, who each had a podium today, Sean Allen and Brodie Steen. Sean, you finished second in race number 2, and you were running second in race 1. Tell us how your night went. Fair enough. I wonder if you were hoping they'd both take each other out and then you could go through to an unopposed victory. Yes. Was going to bring that up. You found a lot of time, especially in that final sector. You were up in the first 2 sectors, but then pulled out about 3/10 at the time on the next best lap time in that final corner. That looked like a wild ride. Well done. A lot of pace tonight, and congratulations on your podium finish, Sean Allen. Brodie Steen is muted. No, he's unmuted himself, so he's heard me. Brodie, an excellent race 1 from yourself, collecting the podium in 3rd place and right in the thick of the action throughout race 2. And apparently with a bit of a storm in your part of the world. So, despite the thunderstorm, still with fairly successful night from yourself, I said, and finishing the podium in race 1 and right in the action in race 2. Yeah, so nonetheless, it was quite a improvement, moving 4 spots up, I believe, from where you qualified in that race after just missing out on the top 10 shootout. Well, yeah, quite a close finish between you two. Did you feel like he was threatening to repass you towards the back end of that race? Fair enough. Well, yeah. Yeah, maybe it could have been Phil. I'd like to hear his perspective, but he's not here. But congratulations again on the podium, and a fair chunk of points for you two for Race on Oz tonight. Let's see if we got Ethan Warren in the chat. Can he hear me? Ethan. Terrific night from yourself. Absolutely dominant victories and just bossing qualifying. The only thing that went wrong from your perspective would be that tangle with the back marker that we saw late in race 2. Yeah, Thomas was really, really pacey in the first part of that race. To be worried that he was. He's got a bit of a reputation, I suppose. He can. I'm sure he's here, so he can defend himself if he wants to. If he can defend himself if he wants to, but it's you never know quite how it's going to end when you're battling with him. Oh, the only disappointing thing about that battle is that it didn't last a little bit longer. All right, well, congratulations, Ethan, and congratulations to the rest of our podium sitters once again. Madbird, closing thoughts?
Scary pace and domination from Ethan Warren going into the, what do you call the long things? Endurances. Into the enduro rounds, especially, he's going to close right up. Kurt Stenberg made a lot of hay today while the sun was shining, the sun being the absence of Jake Maloney, and that's going to put him well clear at the top of the table. But I just wonder how much chance Ethan Warren has to claw his way up towards the top in these next 4 round stairs, and I'm looking forward to calling it with you.
Yes, we've got some big plans, so we can't wait for that. And, well, that'll be our next broadcast. That's all the time we've got tonight. So until Bathurst, the mega week, and grab your pens, jot this down. Starting off on Tuesday, the 15th of October, we'll be bringing you all the action from the Super 2 race of Bathurst as we build up to the weekend. And then over the 2 days, qualifying session on Saturday, culminating in the famous Top 10 shootout. And then on the 19th of October, that is the 19th of October, then on the 20th of October, the full race, 161 laps, 1,000 kilometres, and that's something that we absolutely can't wait. So we hope you can't wait for it either. We'll see you then. Bye for now. Done. Thank you, gentlemen.
Woo! Who? Oh no.
Oh shit.
Jesus.
Just. That's hard. That was hard.
The cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's still live and that's still live. Just reminding you. Oh, fuck. I need to stand. Oh, my old legs. Such an old man.
You right there?
I'm fantastic.
That's live.
Yeah, it is. I'm making eye contact.
Oh crap, I should have mentioned that. That was fun.
Oh, fuck.
Tomo died. Alright, we're gonna head off, guys. Thanks for everything. Cheers. Well, yep. We'll see you then. Yeah, of course. Alright. Catch you, boys. Yeah, just... I had a headset that would make it so much easier. I think that's what I need to do.
You're almost crippling yourself a bit by having so many screens because you have to look so many different directions.
Like, the looking's fine. It's the having to, like, I just want to say.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, because
the
mic can only be in one place, and you've got to look all over the place.
The thing is, when you commit to doing this, you feel like you have to talk a little bit longer, and then my concentration wavers. And it's like I want to be able to say little short sentences. I like to have a more fragmented.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Back and forth, rather than like someone says a paragraph and the other one says a paragraph.
Yeah. But yeah,
and it's because of this setup that it's like that. But yeah.
Pardon me.
But yeah. Oh, overall, I think we did the best with what we could. There were a couple of little things that didn't quite go as they.
Kurt Stenberg, currently the only car in third. Fuck.
I mean, I laughed, but I'm like, I laughed also because I can relate to saying shit like that.
I was like, because I started the sentence with no idea where I was going with it, and then I'm just like,
the only car in this car.
The only car. Currently, I was gonna say something. Like I had something in mind, but then like when I switched to his view, I could see the thing that I was gonna say wasn't correct. So I was stuck with Kurt Stenberg, currently the only car, and then I had to think in third.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
But yeah, people kept fucking spinning, and I was like, shit, I'm not on him. And when I was rewinding that replay of Ethan Warren crashing, I didn't think that was the one that was live. I was just going to queue it up and then cut to it, and that would have been nice.
Oh, it happens. But you're getting used to using the two things.
Yeah, it's a lot different to the 3 hour because the 3 hour was more spaced out.
Yeah, there was a lot less runners in the 3 hour, and everyone was a bit more. You've got 3 hours.
There was a few sequences where I was like that when we were looking at one of the, I think it was Brody Steen and Kurt Stenberg were battling each other, and then Sean Allen spun in front of them because I had Sean Allen on that screen and Kurt Stenberg was on that screen with Brody Steen. I could just quickly cut to them.
Yeah.
And because I'd seen it happening. Oh, Sean Allen spun, and then I cut to it as it was happening.
Yeah, that was good.
Stuff like that is why it's invaluable. Hopefully it's okay on the screen. Interesting, like the sound didn't look like it was coming through from that computer. It did on Sunday because I couldn't see the thing going.
Okay.
But it probably won't be that noticeable because you still get audio from the desktop here.
Yeah. Oh, and like even if it was silent, like it's still us going blah, 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 over it. So. Oh.
On your Heath, cucumbers.
On your Heathy with the cucumbers.
I haven't got any in the fridge right now.
Oh fuck. Just cucumbers, nothing but cucumbers.
No zooks.
No zooks.
Just cukes.
No zucks. Give me the zuck. Give me the zuck.
Yes. Well,
ZUCCHINI.
If anyone's still watching this, thank you for joining us for this broadcast. Hopefully we've ironed out the kinks. Mesmerising. Fuck me. Mesmerising. And that seemed to work. It didn't fall down this time.
No, it didn't. That was stable as a table.
It's funny, like if you put it up high enough, it actually starts doing that.
Mm.
So there's like a perfect middle ground for it. The thing is, it's just like a little bit higher than you want to be.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if we had cushions on the chairs or something, we wouldn't have to like.
Had booster seats.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Who?
Heath.
Did he respond?
He said something after the. No zucks in the emojis. No zucks in the emojis. Cucks are the new zucks.
Cucks are the new zucks. I mean, they're very different things.
I mean, they're both long, skinny green things that I don't particularly like.
They taste very different from one another, though.
I'll take your word for it.
You wouldn't eat a cuke?
Hey?
Like whole?
No, I wouldn't eat a cuke whole. The only person I've ever known, apart from Heathy, to eat a cuke whole is a pregnant lady who had it as cravings.
What about Kurt? Not Kurt. Kurt Team's son.
Why don't you eat this whole cucumber, Heath?
It's attached to you.
Right here.
If a cucumber was attached to you, it probably wouldn't eat it. You know what I'm talking about? Can you stop humping my hair?
No, I'm talking about.
Where is it?
What are you scrolling up for? Oh, the picture.
Man, I was impressed.
Man, I was impressed. Good Athletics 2019. That didn't get the reaction I was hoping for.
Oh, I laughed.
Just... Oh, fuck. Man, I was impressed.
I couldn't figure out what, because I clicked halfway into his stream and he'd like already eaten half of it, and it looked like an ice cream or something like that. And then he put it on the floor. It's like, what the fuck?
Who puts ice creams on the floor, you animal?
It'll melt.
No.
Continental cukes, not the small ones.
Oh, rip.
Yeah.
Mate, it's not the size of your cuke, it's what you do with it.
Well, that, obviously.
That's a pretty big cuke. He was impressed.
Is he trying to swallow it whole? Deep throat a cuke.
Deep throat a cuke. What a sentence.
I think every multi-syllable vegetable should be shortened to one.
Shortened to one. Do you want to go get a pot? Some baked pot?
Oh yeah. Have some carrots with it. Have some carrots with it.
Carrots. Cat. Well, it'd be cat.
That's hard.
Yeah, it'd be just the first syllable. Carrot is cat.
I like to make things different.
Warm up some brock.
Brock's actually a normal sentence.
Yeah.
No, it's not. What term is what I mean?
I don't know. Do people call broccoli brock?
Yeah, I've heard it. It's quite frequent.
Oh, okay.
I want some brock.
What else?
Coal.
Do you want some sow?
These are hard because I don't always know what you mean. Sow.
Sow, yeah. I hear they love sow in Germany.
Sauerkraut.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean cab?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's that emoji that looks like a dick. You know, the O emoji.
Yeah, the egg.
Or the O.
Aubergine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call it egg.
Ah, egg. Do you want some egg with that? Yeah, sure. You give someone some fucking bacon or something for breakfast. You want some egg with that bacon? Yeah, and you just start cutting up eggplant. What the fuck are you doing? I'm giving you some egg.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you guys call it O.
You guys call it a sausage in the mouth. Or.
Actually, we just call it a sausage.
Your little whiteboard confuses me because you got bills, and then underneath that you got the Pukekohe pit window, and then underneath that you've got what I can assume are like a to-do list of things to buy, travel pods and Pro Tools, and then you've got CPU temperature issues. So I don't know if this is a to-do list.
It's just things to remember.
Things to remember.
Yeah. It's not in any specific.
What's Project 34 on Wednesday? Oh. Is that the thing I think?
We go now.